Welcome to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Now Clark to Davis. They just play catch at the 35-foot mark. Now Clark fires a three, right wing, and got that to go. And now passes Lynette Woodard of Kansas, who had the scoring lead when it was the AIAW, as Clark 33 points.
Shift change coming at the next time out for the Blue Devils. Meanwhile, flip to the right. Proctor three. Count it. Tyrese dials up a deep one. And the Blue Devils call for time to get the substitutions in. And just like that, the lead back to 24, 77 to 53.
Down to 34 seconds left. Shannon with a drive, layup, good! And that may be the cherry on top of the sundae. 103.94, 30 seconds left.
Estrada back to Cosby. He'll let it fly again, and why not? Do it, Damon Cosby. Light him up, Youngin.
And Alabama, 101 points here on the road for the ninth time. That's an SEC record.
And the Jays win. Jays win. Jays win. 85-64, a dominating effort tonight as they sweep the Seton Hall Pirates. Final in Omaha, Blue Jays 85, Pirates 64.
Good morning. Welcome into Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla.
Hello.
Coming to you on a Thursday.
Trap game. I'm like, hey, what's up? Hello. That did not sound like Johnny Bishop, but I'm not going to lie.
He sounded like maybe he's a little congested.
Yeah, full disclosure.
Yeah.
Apologize to anybody from the broadcast team that's just now boarding their flight, listening to 590 like everybody should be.
Always.
I had to get away from old Donnie Marshall for a bit.
No, I
don't like being a guy.
You know,
there's a lot going on early where I felt like it was a lot of fake energy and it was some unnecessary things being said, like water's wet. And I was like, you know what? Let's see what old Jay Bizzle's got hopped up. So
and the Jays win.
So you just say, Alexa, please play 1620 The Zone. And boop, there's Jay Bizzle. And I pause for a second. Mm-hmm. And then I think we're okay for a while. And then you got to do it again. I mean, it takes a little effort.
Yeah.
But it's
to line it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, with the audio.
But so I came back in the second half to regular television because I think normal people don't want to hear that background noise around the house all the time.
Sure.
I don't know what the heck their problem is.
Normal people. Normies.
You know. But it was kind of a sleepy crowd. But I get it.
It was, you know, I was
not a very aesthetically pleasing game.
Well, it was an 8:00 start on a Wednesday, which is always a challenge, right? The late starts on weekdays, and then, you know, I'm standing there before the game watching warm-ups with our guy Matty D, and
so does he like chuckle in your ear? He's like, God, I kill you on your own show every week.
He does, and he's like,
Matty
I was like, I don't know why
I flame you every week.
I was like, I don't know why I'm still friends with you guys. Him and JP, we were actually
JP is an equal opportunity flamer. He doesn't pick sides. He'll
torch everybody.
Oh yeah, everybody's fair game.
He does it so nonchalantly that you just kind of get taken off guard. But you're like, wait, what happened?
Yeah.
I thought we were friends. I thought we were cool.
Stealthy.
But no, it was honestly before about 10 minutes before tip-off, and I don't even know how they got in there, but the place was empty 10 minutes before tip-off.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I was like, are we getting a crowd of like 7 today? It was stunning. And then by the time Maddie and I got upstairs to the hockey press area, it was pretty much full. So I was impressed that they got it filled in. But yeah, it was a little, I mean, compared to last week, obviously it was, or even compared to like a normal weekend game, it was a little sleepy at first, but they went on a little run. I think the back-to-back Trout and Ashworth threes got them going a little bit. But, I mean, I don't think anybody was more asleep last night than Seton Hall, so that helps.
Yeah. Listen, I'm not pro Big East. I'm kind of. I like the Big East. I like Creighton. Like, that's the thing, right? But for the Big East honks that are beating their chest over this conference, man, I don't know.
That was a horrifying performance by Seton.
Then I'm not going to just take that one. But yes.
It was bad.
It's not like it's just okay. Like it's a well coached conference, but I mean Providence, Seton Hall, Xavier, it's fine, but I'm not like maybe the metrics will do them better justice than the eyeball test.
Probably because the top of the league's good, so sometimes that'll kind of lift up the middle of the league.
100%.
But yeah, you watch Seton Hall, you look Providence, you look at Xavier, you look at Butler, and you go, even St. John's, depending on the night, right? They're super inconsistent.
Yeah, but I have to be careful though, right? Because it's like if you watch Minnesota and Illinois, did that look like the same Minnesota team that got their bundas kicked at PBA the other day?
It does not.
Like, what was that?
I don't know how you go.
They were hitting pull-up threes.
I don't know how you go, what was it, 105-97 in regulation?
I just...
Like, how does that even happen?
So, it had to get the other game viewing when it got to be like 38-37. I think Minnesota had just maybe hit a three to... Something like that. It hit a three to take the lead. I'm like, man, this thing's going to have to get my attention. Right? And it was like... Here we go. Like, because I already knew I was going to be elbows deep in the clip joint, the Roach Clips, and the Lakers. Because I felt like, and you're in the same boat because we could be playing one another
in that play-in
game with the Lakers and Golden State. But Lakers got to get their little bunda in gear.
Yeah, they got to figure it out, which they did in the fourth quarter.
No, LeBron did.
Well, yeah, fair.
Yeah.
LeBron James. He had a couple Rui baskets in there. He had
I think he had like 19.
He did. He had 19 in the fourth. The Clippers only had 16.
So here's the thing. He drives me up the wall because I found myself being captivated by someone I have a really strong disdain for, but he's helping the team that I love. Like really do the darn thing. Because if we're being honest, of stages of falling in love, Steelers were clearly number one.
Okay.
The Lakers were 2.
Fair.
Nebraska and Carolina were about the same time.
Okay.
Slight nod to Nebraska.
So you're talking about like in timing of
yes.
It. Right. Okay.
Yes. My fandom.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So like I'm just in there. And the Dodgers, because you gotta remember 80-81 were just now, like stuff is just now starting to get going. And that's what I was captivated by. So they're kind of lumped together.
Okay. Yeah.
But the clear nod goes to
Steelers
and the Lakers. So I'm watching this and I'm like,
so are you pre-Magic on the Lakers?
No,
You're right
a rival of Magic.
Okay.
A rival of Magic. I have the Sports Illustrated with Magic. I don't. My dad did. My mom asked me about a month ago where we think that stack went. I don't know.
Of like old Sports Illustrated?
Yeah, the Magic Bird split cover.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
So it's funny. Tom Chattel one time asked me again about a month ago. Maybe it was whenever Sports Illustrated said they're
closing their doors.
He's like, hey, what are your top covers? I was like, funny you asked. Like, this was literally like 10 seconds of text time. I was like, hey, I got 5. And I screenshot them all to him. But yeah, so it's at Magic's arrival. And remember, Magic is
your all-time fave. That's how I was with Curry and the Warriors. I would not be a Warriors fan without Steph Curry. Like, he just doesn't. I was going to be a fan of whatever team Steph Curry went to.
I just the picture and his smile and the open collar, like,
yeah,
like I just was like, oh, that's cool. I didn't see a lot of people that look like me enjoying themselves, and he looked to be enjoying himself on a national cover.
Yeah.
So I just kind of was drawn to it.
Sure.
But I was wrestling last night because I'm like, man,
don't love LeBron.
But he's 39.
It's unbelievable. I mean, it really is. Like him or not, it's unbelievable.
He's 39.
He's older than I am. Like, he's older than me.
And he's just giving and this is fresh on the heels of me eye rolling that he told the media to get off his son. I was like, I don't know. Like, I want to say in my head, you can't have it both ways. This dude, I remember clearly when Caleb's summer team played Gulf Coast in Wichita. And this dude is like 17 years older than Caleb's team, but he's playing up.
Mhm.
And we had a college World Series show that I was doing, and I'm watching it online. The very next year they played him again, and it's like we've been growing this forever. Like at some point, you have to be desensitized to the criticism,
Mhm.
or even the questioning. Like nobody can even question Bronny. Like, can y'all please just leave my son alone and let him enjoy basketball? Do you know how many times I wanted to say that about my family?
Yeah.
And it's not even on that level.
Yeah.
But you have to take what comes with it, because at the end of the day, it's what I told him for 3 years. This will serve you well. This is a very fickle place. There'll be times a game will finish being played and you will be a meme. Right? Like you have to be able
to handle
that.
Is it different?
So I'm like, God, this was why I can't stand him. And then 5 days later, it's like, go Lakers.
Is it different because of
the place was packed when they played when
I know.
when T&E played Gulf Coast.
And
their kids.
Is it,
I mean, literal kids.
Is it different now because I mean LeBron's averaging like 6 points a game. Like he's not doing like
it's not that he's not.
Right. Is it different because people are talking about him as okay, what's he going to do in the NBA when maybe LeBron's looking at him and is like, he's not that guy yet?
Well, it was.
Does that make it different at all for you?
No, because this is what bugs me.
Okay.
I just don't think you should do a guy a solid because of
his kid.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he's clearly not an NBA prospect right now.
No, not right now. Maybe he won't ever be. Maybe he will be. I don't know. But right now,
But to have the discussions a couple of years ago that Bron would wait on his kid and who's going to draft him, and like these are real conversations people were having last week.
Yeah.
And I'm like, so you guys are wasting your time on a talking head show for 50 minutes saying what team at age 40 or 41 would sign LeBron and draft his son? Like, do you think so the first thing I thought of was, do you think his kid would want that? Draft me just because of my like that's what because the counter argument is why I was so weird with one of my own kids. I wanted the disassociation, not the association.
Yeah.
Because he didn't want the association. So I'm like, why are you guys having this conversation? But then the guy's getting mad that you're having the conversation. He said it.
Yeah. He's the one that started the conversation.
He started the conversation.
Hey, I'd like to play with my son someday. That's the reason this conversation.
And that's cool. But I mean, Frank Gore said it too, and that was actually at least realistic.
So
because what did Frank Gore? We counted the other day on a humbug. Was it 16 years for Gore? 18?
16.
16 years.
16 years. 16,000 yards on the dot.
In 16 years.
Yep.
It's unbelievable.
Unbelievable career.
But I do I found myself thinking, like, especially on the heels of the Dumbo Jackson talk and Lance's ridiculous call yesterday, that longevity does matter.
Oh, it does.
Because it gets into the Emmitt Smith conversation too. So, Emmitt
Smith's longevity might be the most impressive thing about him. Is that fair?
No.
No?
I don't think Emmitt's better than I give him credit for.
Fair.
It's not like he was a hanger on her. I mean, Emmett was
but longevity
talented
at that position isn't nothing.
Yeah.
Right. So I don't say that as a derision to Emmitt Smith.
As I'm getting ready, combine talk, which I'm
jazzed about. We get drills today. I'm excited.
Man.
I'm pumped.
So I had to make sure the library was set.
I know you got to record it
because I didn't know if I hit future things like it, because I have NCAA wrestling on there too.
Yeah.
But I also have Nebraska, so I'm like, okay,
you got to make sure you
are they going to overlap? Is it anything that's college? So I had to make sure that the combine was in the library. But I'm like, I think that's got to be part of it when you're talking about, because I'm looking at these running backs that are up, unrestricted free agents, and I'm like, haven't we proven that you do need to run the football to have some success?
You do. That's why I asked that question of Jason.
Go holler at Buffalo.
That's why I asked the question on Jason Cole earlier this week of if the position became undervalued, right? Because, and I don't know that it has, but the way that GMs approach filling that position has changed dramatically, right?
Yeah, but do you know what part of it is? And I don't think he wanted to get into it. I don't know if he even enjoys it, but Like analytics has definitely crept into the
100%.
NFL too.
Because
And,
they
and it happens on the spending side for
Yes.
GMs with monies committed and
because they say, hey,
rate of return.
if I can pay this guy 20% of what I pay Saquon Barkley, but I can get 70% of his production, then I'm better off.
Exactly.
Right? I wanted to go back to the LeBron thing for a minute and the association with his kid, because on a much smaller scale, like I've experienced that a little bit. Like my mom, before she retired, was in a very similar field to what I ended up doing.
Mhm.
And so I know for a fact that I got opportunities because people knew and liked my mom. Right. And for a while that did bother me. I'm like, would I have ever gotten that job if they didn't know my mom?
That's why I was such a knucklehead. It bothered me my whole life until I learned to appreciate
my
my dad.
So that's the thing is, at a certain point, I worked at that place for almost 6 years. My boss, I just saw him out in public from that job. I haven't been there for over 5 years at this point. I saw him out in public, I don't know, a couple weeks ago.
Mhm.
Shout out DT if you're listening. I know he does sometimes. And we still, he was thrilled to see me. At a certain point, yes, I got the interview because of my mom,
Mhm.
but I did the job and I did it well for a long time, and I made people around there like me because of me, right? So I don't know if I'm brawny. Do I care why the opportunity comes? Because you're only going to stick if you stick.
No, that's legit.
You know what I mean?
Probably not.
Does it matter why you get the shot?
Probably not.
But I get it because I've thought the exact same thing before where I was like, oh, man, that kind of.
So for me, so you're asking me I'll be 50 in them.
Yeah.
Whatever. But real time then, I think it would have.
Right. No, and I get that because at the moment when DT told me, he goes,
it wouldn't now because I understand how the world works.
Right.
Like you still got to be good at what you do.
Absolutely. Right. Because I remember in the moment, I'm 25 or 26 or something at the time. So I was young. And I remember in the moment where, and he kind of just said it offhandedly. He's like, yeah, I mean, your interview or your resume was okay, but we're kind of like, well, it's Rose Lulla's kid. How bad can he be? So we gave you the interview. And then I still had to do the interview. He's like, we wouldn't. And I actually brought it up to him later. Like several months later, I was like,
I don't see. Well, how old were you?
Like 25, 26. I was young.
So you probably would have been better than me in that. I just know my personality. I probably would have been a little bit more defiant.
Because I literally asked him about it. I go, I was like, you really only interviewed me because of my mom? And he's like, yeah, but you still had to nail the interview.
Yeah. The only not the only. One of the main reasons I delayed getting into education because I spent from 99-ish to 2000 to 04. Like there was gap getting back to the school district when I wasn't trying to play sports.
Mm-hmm.
And that was because I didn't want to go to.
You didn't want to have the legacy.
I didn't want to go to OPS.
Yeah.
No, Dan and I so a couple guys, Barty and Dan and I came to get me.
Mm-hmm.
Hey man, got an opening here. This program could do this, really start to grow. And I was like, ugh. But by then my dad had been gone for probably 5-6 years, maybe. I think he left in 99.
You mean gone from the district? Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And thank you for clarifying. And 'cause it did sound weird.
Yeah.
So I fought it. So I know. And in 99, I was. What's 99 minus 74?
25.
Yeah, I was 20. Yeah, I know you were ahead of me emotionally. Because
it's also a different legacy. I mean, to be fair,
I was just sick of
it's a different thing.
I just remember really nasty conversations in school, like elementary and junior high, and only a few in high school.
Mm-hmm.
But I fought it my whole life.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and I know if I had it to go back and do again, I obviously would have been like, yeah, but just stop holding it over my head.
Yeah, for sure.
You know what I mean? It's it's not the first thing I wanted. So I went the other way with Knucklehead.
Yeah.
And I was super hands off. And then it almost cost me.
Yeah.
I say cost me like him not going to Nebraska would have. But do you know what I mean?
It makes your life harder, though. It would have.
Because I had so many unanswered questions. Like, what if I would have done this? What if I would have poured here? What if I would have valued this? Like, what if he wouldn't have found my trophy in the closet? Like, there's lots of things that I was going through when he was enamored with everybody else, right? Because I felt like what really ramped it up and made me mad was I finally felt like this is a guy that's at the university that I want you to be around. So then it heightened it heightened my anxiety.
Yeah.
I was like, he needs to be around Coach Rule. Like, Coach Rule would be good for him. But it's not like I could say that, but I couldn't say that.
Yeah, you didn't want to push too hard.
So it like
because at the end of the day, and I feel like I can say this pretty confidently, and tell me if I'm out of line. At the end of the day, if it was less about him going to Nebraska and more about him being around somebody that you respected and thought would be better for his life.
1,000%.
Like if Nebraska had hired somebody else or somebody else.
And I didn't feel the same.
Still been the coach.
Yeah.
Because I know for a fact you didn't feel that way before.
Right.
Fair?
That's fair.
Okay.
I don't have any problems admitting that.
Like if somebody else had been hired, if somebody else had been retained, whatever, we're having a different conversation. And maybe Caleb still ends up at Nebraska, but you don't say, it's not for the reason that
it started with Coach Rule.
Yes. Right.
Like it's not even close. And then it just so happened to be that he is at my alma mater.
Yes.
So then I was like really all in.
But I'm really confident if you had been an Iowa alum and Coach Rule still ends up at Nebraska, you'd be like, he should be around that guy.
Yep.
Rather than, and listen, not that Kirk Ferentz is a bad guy, but rather than be like, hey, I want you to go to my alma mater, it'd be, hey, I want you to be around Matt Rule.
Yeah.
Like that's the truth, right? And people may not believe us.
No,
because
I mean, you could tell, like this kind of,
because people didn't believe the whole time that there was any chance that he wouldn't go to Nebraska, right?
That's not,
and that's not true.
It's not even remotely
true. Touch and go for a while there. Question real quick. I don't know if you have time to answer it, but a couple of people asked, where did your disdain for LeBron start? Like what happened there?
Like full disclosure, probably the theatrics. So I didn't like his game.
Okay.
I felt like he was kind of a bully.
Okay. Just aesthetically, you didn't like how it looked?
Yeah. So he's kind of a bully. He's bigger, stronger than most guys.
Yeah.
But he was always whining. And so I'm like, you can't, again,
you can't be the bully.
I said, you can't have it both ways.
Yeah. You can't be a bully and still look to the principal
and
be
so
like, hey.
I couldn't, I hated the style.
Okay.
And then the being carried off the court and the not one, not two, the South Beach thing, like it just escalated.
Honestly, the decision thing sat super wrong with me. And I get that it's dumb.
I don't care. So you know what? Though?
I don't care that he left. I didn't like the theatrics of it.
I didn't like the not one, not two. It was just,
see, that didn't bother me.
It didn't bother me either. But the thing that bothered me was you say in one thing you don't really want the attention, but you quietly want to control that narrative of the attention.
He wants the attention on his terms.
That's the things that bother me.
Interesting.
That's a fair question.
Coming up next, we will set up the show at some point
never
here.
Know with our first segment.
I know that was a good first segment, though. I like that.
What happened to Creighton Seton Hall?
Hey, Creighton Seton Hall played last night too. Creighton won. We'll get to all that and more here on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We will be back. 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 You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
That's Damon Benning. I'm Ravi Lulla here on. Oh, my bad. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, live on AM 590.
Should I enjoy my name more?
Yeah, you really should. It's a weird thing.
Hey, how do you really feel? Like, do I have a hang up?
It's strange. You probably need to talk to somebody about that.
Oh, I have.
It's we're live on AM 590 ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, and live on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube as well.
I'm actually logged in now.
Hey, look at that. DB is joining
the
stream.
Well, if your boy would produce, we wouldn't have this problem.
Are we producing? Are you guys going?
Shane, it'd be okay to say, hey, DB, you're not logged in.
Is Shelby going to be on Monday?
Yeah, we will talk a little bracket swag.
Well, and if
with Shelby Mast on Monday, who will be, guess where, Shane?
In Omaha this weekend.
Yeah, he'll be in Omaha this weekend.
I heard he'll be in Omaha.
Yeah, you're a weirdo.
This is a very inside baseball conversation we're having here.
Which, by the way, did you see my guy yesterday?
Who?
Yo, Yamamoto.
No, I did not. Coming up on the show today, we've got Brian Edwards at 8:45.
That was not going into dialect, Asian Wyatt. Do not call me at 888-638-4876.
On the Warhorse Sportsbook hotline.
Yeah, but the Dodgers staff, if they could ever stay healthy, I'm pretty excited about. And I won't have to openly root for Shohei every time he takes the mound because he won't be pitching this year.
Yeah, he is. He's not going to be pitching.
I give my guy Walker Buehler back, and hopefully May.
Buehler.
Dude, I'm a huge Walker Buehler fan. So you talk about blind spots and irrational.
Love him.
Yes.
Okay.
Why? For no good reason at all, except for I love his mechanics.
Ooh, okay. Yeah.
That's it.
I get that.
That's it. But apparently they're not good mechanics because he's always hurt.
Well, they might be good mechanics, but if they're attached to a
big Walker Buehler guy.
Yeah.
I was watching Puck shove the other day from he was pitching for the Marlins in spring training because I like spring training.
Mm-hmm.
I like spring training a lot.
Yeah.
I watch it quite a bit. And there are some electric arms.
Oh yeah.
Like baseball the last 8-9 years, how guys just get out of the rack
throwing 100
and shove 98.
Yeah.
It's like
the amount of the amount that pitching has jumped in the sport in like you said, probably the last 10, maybe 15 years is horrifying. I don't know how anybody hits anything.
Yeah. And you know what's crazy about that? Going back to the conversation first hour with like
LeBron,
LeBrizzle, Doug Dizzle, LeBrizzle,
LeBron
James. So 19 years
Mm-hmm.
and so why I went down this memory lane thing yesterday, because on TikTok, I saved it. I should have sent it to you.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't love the fact he was kind of being general sometimes and very specific at others with statistics. And he used to always come up, Shane, on remember when Severe did like this day in sports history forever?
Mm-hmm.
1 out of every 2 days.
Nolan Ryan?
Can I finish without you saying it so I could have Ravi guess?
Oh, sorry.
I was going to say 1 out of every 2 days. This guy on this day in sports history would pop up among a list of 10 athletes.
Yeah.
And it was always Nolan Ryan.
Yeah. He was a freak.
Didn't matter sometimes it would be like November, right? Like, why would Nolan Ryan come up on a November this day in sports history?
Nolan Ryan went on a barnstorming tour and struck out 40 batters.
But he would come. He did it for. And I watched this guy. I don't follow him. It just comes on because I was looking up. A lot of times you can get clips of like some spring training stuff, and I was going back looking for some stuff from Yamamoto yesterday. But he was talking about these Nolan Ryan statistics of the over 5,000 strikeouts and what pitchers would have to do now. And now some of it was a little Paul Bunyan, John Henry-esque, where he was like, gosh, he tore his UCL. And
I think I saw that one. He threw 98 the next pitch.
Yes, you saw that guy?
Yeah, I saw that video.
Is that not? Why are we seeing the same things? Because you just told me about Roseanne yesterday too.
Yeah, I don't know. We must have similar interests.
That's weird.
Yeah.
But did you recall some of those stats he was saying?
Yeah,
they were sick.
So the one was like, if you take out every 10 strikeout game from his career, he still has 3,000 career strikeouts.
Yes,
like that's stupid.
He was like, a 10 strikeout game now is kind of a big deal.
Yeah, he had like 200 of them in his career.
Right,
and if you took away all of them, still has 3,000 strikeouts.
I was like, that is
stupid.
It's incredible.
He threw like a 235 pitch complete game.
The 13 inning one.
Yeah, like the dumbest stuff.
He threw 170 pitches, and then threw 3 days later a 6-hit shutout or a 6-inning shutout.
Yep, 6-inning shutout on full rest is now a miracle.
I was like, what are we talking? So it made me, that's funny. So it made me think of that yesterday. While I was making meatballs yesterday. It was so stupid.
Well, Nolan Ryan was
so I'm like, I got my gloves on. I'm like tossing balls in my hand back and forth in the kitchen. I'm like, yeah, I better be appreciated. I'll tell you that much. And I was like, I'm a child. But I was like, golly, Nolan Ryan may be the greatest human ever.
He might be like the biggest like physical outlier.
I'm telling you though.
Yeah.
LeBron is getting close.
He's getting up there. I don't understand it. I don't get it.
I mean, you're talking darn near 20 years.
And in basketball.
And he's still dominant.
Yes. Now, he can't leave it revved high for as long anymore, right?
Why
But still,
that's what you're going to hang your hat on?
No, I'm not hanging my hat on. I'm like,
he's almost 40.
That's the only thing you can even say. Because when he was, 25 or whatever, he could turn it up to 10, leave it there for a few weeks.
Dude, his wear and tear, though, like he's played a lot of games.
So many games. He really has not missed that much basketball. I know people give him a hard time now with like the load management and whatever. It's like, oh, he's only going to play 55, 60 games or whatever. He's been doing this for 21 years.
Yeah, so I was So yesterday was a day of just thinking about longevity.
Mm-hmm.
On the heel, obviously Michigan Lance had my dander up. The Bo Jackson last week. Like I was like, okay, let's talk like longevity.
It matters.
Kind of. I think it can only enhance. That's where I landed.
Ooh, I don't think so. Because here's the problem.
I don't know.
I think at a certain point it can only enhance, but I think you have to get to kind of a bare minimum.
Yeah, all things being equal. Right. It's kind of like how I look at championships.
But I kind of have to get to a bare minimum with longevity before I can even put you in a conversation.
Okay, let me give you an example. Okay. Earl Campbell, Curtis Martin.
Okay.
You're starting your franchise tomorrow.
I'm looking them up. Just so
I could just tell you, one's like 6,600, the other's like 15,000.
No, Earl's got more than you think. 94.
Okay. I'm thinking probably peak years when I just recall numbers in my head. And I remember I'm doing this from off the top. You're taking Earl. At least I think, if you have a brain. No disrespect. But Martin's longevity, as we heard from Jason Cole the other day, like
Martin has one of the strangest years.
Listen to what I'm telling you, though.
No, I know. I'm just
so for the sake of the discussion, all things being equal, yeah, you could get to Martin being like, well, I'll get him longer. He had a better Derrick Henry versus Earl Campbell. All things being equal, I'm going to get Derrick Henry longer.
And that one's probably closer because of running styles.
Would I take peak Earl or peak Henry? I'm still taking peak Earl.
Fair.
But Derrick could do it longer. So it's all things being equal for me. That's where I mean that.
That's a little bit different conversation,
though. No, you can't tell me what I meant.
No, I know, but I mean from what we were having.
That's a little bit different interpretation.
Yes. In terms of the conversation we were having before with like the Bo Jackson and LeBron James, because if you're taking somebody's peak, that's different than taking their career.
No, I understand.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
all.
So
it's kind of the same thing then, because what I'm saying is like if I look at like that the list that was just on The Athletic.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm looking at the quarterbacks and shout out to Mitch Sherman. He'll be on tomorrow, not today. He had a conflict. A lot of those quarterbacks had short stints in college.
Yeah.
But it was like peak. Now there's a couple like Tebow and Baker Mayfield.
College is hard too because I mean you're dealing with a truncated timeline anyway.
Yeah, I like the word truncated.
Thank you.
It's very nice.
SAT.
That's 3 good words this week.
I try.
What was the P one you dropped on Monday?
I don't remember.
It's an adjective. It means something to the positive. Yeah, got a lot of syllables. I'll think about it over the break.
Lance, hold on here.
Here we go.
We only had like a minute. And I didn't want to have you yell at me for cutting you off.
What time is it?
On the last day of Black History Month here. So, Lance, just hang on for a second. I'll give you a full segment. You can have as much as you want. We'll come back and wrap up the first hour here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities.
We will be back. will be back. We will be back. We will be back. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We're wrapping up hour number 1 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. Damon is still breathing, as we can tell. Coming up,
I had to go outside.
You did. I thought you might fall out for a second there.
Who? You. That's who. Who says?
I didn't even come out the way I meant it to.
No, you're just kind of like that by nature.
Well, what I was trying to say was I'm not going to cut you short the way they cut short Black History Month because it's a February. But you got the idea still. Before we get to Michigan Lance on the wall,
is so uncomfortable.
It's fine.
Shane, you gonna be all right? You seem very.
Have a good day. Love you.
That will be one of the greatest drops of all time, though, right there.
Absolutely.
Shane, play that again.
See you. Have a good day. Love you.
Before we get to Michigan Lance on the Warhorse Sportsbook Hotline, we've got Brian Edwards coming up at 8:45, our Vegas insider. Michael Bruntz at 9 o'clock, Husker 24/7. And then we're going to talk to Stephen Means of Cleveland.com. He covers
Means
Ohio
business.
State. He does football, too. So I might, maybe Shane, send him a little text and see if we can ask some football questions.
Hey, we'd like to talk about Chip Kelly and Ryan Day. Can they get along?
I think they're going to be best friends.
Use that.
Be great.
Use that voice.
Well, most of his tweets are about football, so I'm sure you can.
Oh, way to find a basketball guy.
But he is a basketball. Well, I mean, maybe if they were a little bit better, I don't know.
It does say basketball in his bio, so I'm going to ask him about whatever I want. And if he doesn't like it, then I guess we won't have him back.
What do you think people think if they've listened to since we've been back together?
That it's the best radio show of all time. I don't know.
What is going on, though?
I'm just saying, if I'm listening, this is exactly what I want out of a radio show.
all by his side.
It is.
So let's get over that.
No,
Kim's probably still celebrating.
I'm doing the show
Mason
that I
Miller
want to listen to.
Mason Miller hit a 3 at a ball that he received at his ankles.
That's right. We got Isaac,
wasn't even a pocket
we had
pass.
Isaac Trout just getting some shots up last night.
So quietly, I cheer for her.
I like Isaac Trout.
IT.
Yeah, listen, type 1 diabetic gang. All right, let's do this.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he's type 1.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, maybe he can hook me up with some Ozempic.
I sent you the link.
Yeah, I was doing too much.
I'm just saying, that's how you get it. Unless you want to go like black market, like that's how you get it.
I am black.
Black History Month, people forget. On the Warhorse Sportsbook Hotline. Let's get to Michigan land.
Before we get kicked off the air.
I mean, they're not going to kick you off till tomorrow. They're not kicking a black man off the radio on February 29th. They're not doing it.
Wow.
They're not doing it. I feel very confident about that.
Exactly.
Now,
Shay, get him out of here.
Now, I might be gone before the end of the show, but DB will be on at least through the end of the day. Lance, what's going on, man?
Oh, Lord.
Good morning, boys. Hey, Shane, thanks for those drops. I'm back, baby.
Somebody called you a top 5 caller of all time. I gotta talk to Heath.
Yeah, I do too.
He
used to play basketball for me. Me and Heath need to have a little conversation.
Well, first of all, I'm one of one. I'm top one of all.
See, look what you did, Heath.
When people follow you and feel okay to express themselves, not be politically correct.
Yeah,
I can pat myself on the back and say I started that. And so yesterday we had so Damon said I'm big on active listening, and look that up if you don't know what that means.
Oh, here we
go. And
go.
so when I go back and listen and think back on what DB said, that I said something different in a barbershop than I did on the radio. And let me ask you this. Are barbershop conversations the same as on-air public world conversation?
No.
Okay. So yesterday you were having more of a coach speak conversation, and I was having a semi-politically correct barbershop conversation.
Now wait a minute. What's coach speak?
About Patton.
You thought that was coach speak?
Yes, because when you're talking about, well, he played with these guys and they did this system and his development, he grew this far at 6 inches or whatever it was, and how many years. And,
that's not coach speak.
I mean?
That's
developing.
But do you know my personality? Is that not how I would build my case? 100% of the time.
Yes, but listen to what I'm saying though.
Okay. All right.
But because you said barbershop conversation. Now you can build your case that way. That's you. But that doesn't diminish my conversation because how I am, I can go either way, right? I can do it the way you do it all the time, right?
Yeah.
I can adapt. I can do it the way you do it. You've heard me do that.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's also another side of, you know what, a fan perspective and what you grew up knowing. And so what we grew up knowing, right? Like my first actions of knowing about stars and superheroes of athletics, Calvin Jones was first. Then it became even Ray Monday.
Good call.
Damon Benny, Calvin Jones. Calvin, Damon.
Who
was with you, DB?
Who mentions Monday?
Oh yeah. See, this how you know I know what I'm talking about. So when people tell me about these players and how good they are, and I go watch and see, and I'm like, oh, Damon just ran back a punt 93 yards, and I'm 11 years old. Hey man, or somebody says, hey, Alvin Feeder Mitchell, hey man, he can shoot, and I go watch him drain 8 threes, or Andy Woolridge is this and that, and he goes 55. Like, this is what I saw when people told me who good players were,
okay.
And they performed every time I watched.
Okay.
And so that hasn't stopped, from Will Perkins to Galen Morrison to Deverell Biggs. Hey, who was the other short guy that Benny
Valentine.
Ooh, BJ Valentine.
Benny Valentine. Yep.
I'm surprised you didn't take the opportunity to slide in a Lee Cook reference, but okay.
Were you a Carl White guy? I like.
Well, hold on. Hey,
these are all his
Lee
guys.
Cook.
These are all his guys.
Hey, Lee Cook.
I thought White was the best player on that team.
Lee Cook was Patton.
I agree.
Lee Cook was not good for 3 years of high school basketball, and had a good year his senior year. And that's my guy. So when I don't sit here and say, well, I know this guy or I'm close to this guy, so I'm not going to critique him the same. I don't do it. Even with my own son. My son said to me, Dad, thank you for keeping me in football. You know, I was trash last year. And DB, you saw my son. You analyze what you saw in the video, my son that I showed you last spring.
He's come a long way.
But you talk about his long limbs.
I did. I think I put that in writing too. Yeah, you're right. You know, you did, right? Yeah, his flexibility. Oh man, once he gets it together, it's the same thing you talk about Patton, right? And so at least I'm consistent. So at least I'm consistent, though.
Right. No, I'm not saying you aren't, but understand that I'm consistent too. So I had to really think, because when my son tells me he was trash, like, no, man, I start going your route, DB. Hey, man, you were still growing, you're still learning, you moved to a new place. But now when I think back on it and we had this conversation, I was like, dang, my son was right, because I looked at the plays that he didn't make that he had the opportunity to.
Yeah, but I gotta tell you this though, because you're saying two different things. I don't mind that. I don't mind the educational critiquing of a player's ability. That's fine. But what you don't get to do is use bad analogies and have the delivery you did, because that set me off, right? Hang on.
Tell me, go ahead.
So when you start with the Lawrence thing, and it's not even personal, it's just facts. You literally tried to make the case. And I didn't want to go here. I'm like, I don't want to bury my guy, but
I can. No,
you literally tried to make the case. You use LP, AG, and Money Mike.
Yeah, and Calvin Jones.
The number of games that the four aforementioned played from minimum to maximum is 8. Mike Rozier played 35 games. LP played in 27. The maximum number of carries between the four aforementioned is 200. 200 carries. So my sample size is very comparable. It is right there in front of me. Only 8 games different. So for you to make the analogy of LP to Mike to Amen to CJ is I call him Amon.
I know. Go ahead. It was funny.
Is laughable, because you'd have to if you want to hang on. So if you want to use a Bo Jackson comp, you have to find a back that's only played in 30 games or 48 games. The variance is 8 either way. And if you want to have the GOAT conversation, then those are the guys that you need to be talking about, because you missed the point. The point is Bo not a great player. The point was, and I'm not speaking for Ravi, but if I was Ravi, I'd have killed the conversation last week. I just would have said, period, point blank, because this is what I said to you when I hung up the phone. I can't put Bo in the greatest of all time discussion because he hasn't played long enough. Ravi took it someplace else. Okay, that's on him. But it's ludicrous. It's almost laughable to put the college analogy on Bo Jackson, because let's just take a guy that wasn't even in the discussion. So Earl Campbell had a very short career. He still played in 3 times as many games as Bo Jackson. So I'm not having the conversation of GOAT when you don't have enough sample size. So if you're going to give me a sample size argument, make it analogous. It's not even in the same hemisphere.
Now, I never said GOAT, period. GOAT never came out my mouth, ever. since we talked about Bo Jackson when we first met. I never said he was.
I asked you specifically, are you sure you want to include me in this conversation?
No, you said we were talking about all-timers. That's where that's where Bo originally came up.
And he slid in Bo.
You were asking about all-timers.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Lance. I tried not to cut you off here, but we were I gave you the whole segment. That's all I could do. We've got more coming up next year on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. Welcome to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Kicking off hour number 2 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube as well. Reminder, Driving is a full-time job. Phones, food, and friends need your attention when you're not on the road. Stop the distractions. Just drive. This message from the NDOT Highway Safety Office. Would we like to get back on track here?
Yeah, I have a quick question.
Yeah.
Hey, Shane.
What's up?
You know how sometimes, like, I'll ask you something and you'll be in the car and you'll wait till you get to a stoplight or something, or you'll text and you'll say, hey, I'm in the car or whatever. Like, because you don't want to text and drive.
Yeah, yeah.
What did you do when you had CDs?
What do you mean? Like,
did you just change them? Did you sort through the catalog? Did you have an 8-disc CD changer?
oh, like if I'm like,
Did you wait to stop at a stop sign before you change your CDs?
when I listen to CDs, and I still listen to CDs all the way up.
You don't have a
until
CD player in your car, do you?
up until I got this new vehicle. So
wow.
up until like last year or whatever.
Yeah.
I would just listen to the whole CD. I'm a CD. I'm an album guy.
Oh, he's an album guy. Okay.
I like his delivery.
I'm an album
guy. So, like, you didn't, like, put the CD thing on your lap and kind of sort through it and put it in and still drive?
No.
Okay. Did you? You're on the fringe of the CD era, right?
Oh, no, I had CDs. I had the CDs for a long time. But my first car actually didn't even have a CD. It was cassette. So I had a 1991 Pontiac Bonneville. And
you had the Bonnie?
Oh, I love that thing.
Oh, the grandma car.
No, it was
shout out Bonneville.
It was a little nicer than that. No, but it was kind of a little car and I had like a V6. Like it could get up and go.
I had a Buddy Tango. Well, that's probably not radio appropriate. It was this thing. I had a couple like Bonnevilles were a thing at one point when I was in high school.
I liked them. I liked the Bonneville. It wasn't bad, but so that just had a tape deck. That didn't have a CD player. And then my next car was a 94 Oldsmobile 88.
Yes, so I guess
that had the CD.
I guess my point is while I think we're like worse with our attention span.
Okay.
We're significantly worse with our attention
Yeah, because
span.
at the time you weren't like switching CDs in and out all the time. You were kind of just like riding with it. You might skip songs.
Yeah, but even if you were changing CDs, like you could do it without being as poor drivers as we are now when we're distracted.
Fair. Yeah.
Right?
I think that's fair.
I mean,
Well,
you can even hands free with like Bluetooth. We're kind of sketch. How did we do the CD thing?
Back in the day,
so what I did, I had the visor.
You just pull that thing down.
Yeah. So I usually wait till I was at a stoplight. I just grab one.
Are you just saying that because we're on air, or did you really wait till the stoplight?
If I had to look for which one I wanted, I would wait till a stoplight. If I knew where it was, I would just grab it.
Yeah.
Because just good to go.
Gotcha.
This is a video program too, so you can kind of see what we're doing. But yeah, no, if I have to look for something, I'll wait till a stoplight because I'm kind of a paranoid person.
It's like every time, and which is why I'm glad you're doing the read. Every time you like turn on the news, there's some sort of pileup or collision.
Oh man, there's a bad one.
Highway 6 and 80.
Oh no, I was talking downtown last night when I was driving to the Creighton game. There was one on Douglas going east towards downtown.
Oh, I know.
Probably about like 20th.
That's the barbershop hangout.
Yeah, it was. I mean,
and you can only do the one way heading east, right?
Yeah, there was. I think there was only one lane of traffic open because there was a crash, and then the fire truck was blocking off to make sure nobody hit the crash, and there was only one lane of traffic open about 6:30 going downtown. But no, it was. I do think you make a point, though. I mean, it's the cell phones, right? Like this. That's what it is.
I just think we're impatient.
Yeah. But I think you could trace that back to the cell phones because there's everything we want's always right in our hand.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's probably where it comes back to. There's not a lot of album guys anymore, as our guy Shane would say.
Yeah.
Everything is right at your fingertips. Even if you want information, whatever the information is, it's just right there. And when I say information, whether it be the news or if you want to find some kind of fact, hey, who was in that movie, you can just find it within 10 seconds.
I'm just over here, unless our guy's dropping a Ray Monday reference, I'm over here Googling and not finding anything.
Dude, Ray Monday was unbelievable. So, speaking of which, and I think this is right, you can maybe double check this for me. So, last night, Seton Hall had 4 guys take 48 of the 60 shots. Does that sound right?
Sounds right, but let me double check for you here.
And the only reason, because when I looked at it last night,
that's correct. 48 out of 60 between Davis, Richmond, Adewusu, and Dawes.
Adewusu looks like I should be handing him the ball in inside zone.
You know who he looks like? This just came to me. I don't think I'm doing anything bad here. He kind of
like, what do you care? Did they not hear you the first hour?
I thought I was being reasonable. I was trying to help out.
Right.
Trying to do my part.
Right.
In the last day.
Got extra day of leap year.
Yeah, that's right. I'm trying to.
That's right. It's my buddy's significant other's birthday.
He kind of reminds me of. You remember James Toney?
The boxer?
Yes.
Are you kidding me?
No.
So you don't know this about me?
Are you a big James Toney guy?
100%.
So what's like? He's got like the real kind of square head.
Oh.
And like no neck. And he's built kind of like Adewusu is kind of built like James Toney.
So all these fake Floridians, T. Fraze, Tyrone Williams, these guys tried to kick me out of my own apartment. If it wasn't for Dumas, it probably would have been a fight.
Yeah.
Over like James Toney, Roy Jones talk. James Toney, again, we talked blind spots a couple weeks ago. I have an irrational blind spot for James
Toney.
Yes. Yes.
Underrated.
James lights out. The best left hooker maybe in boxing history. James Toney is like, that's funny you say that.
He kind of looks like him.
Owusu?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean I get it. But so I'm watching this last night.
All right, I'm not just like doing a thing, right? Like that's Wusu. That's James Toney.
Yeah.
Like if James Toney
Ravi Lulla here for All Black People Look-alike.
That's what I was trying not to do.
It's okay.
If James Toney had a beard, he'd look like Adewusu.
But so I'm going back to
they're built the same.
To Matt DeMarinis,
yeah,
Mike DeCourcy, Jacob. Well, Jacob really didn't get into the conference talk last time.
Not so much.
But he hung his hat on the Miami talk that we had from 3 weeks ago when he blasted me on social media. You could have Miami. I was like, listen, man, I wasn't making the case for Miami per se. I'm just telling you, like, the middle of these conferences, you got to go to coaches you trust, and I trust Larinaga. That was really where I tried to land the plane.
Okay, that's fair.
So you're watching these games last night.
So you trust Larinaga more than like Shaka Smart? Is that was your? Because we were talking about Marquette. Is that what we were?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm not trying to put words in your mouth.
I trust
Larinaga over Smart. That's who you trust more.
Every day that ends in Y.
Fair.
And he doesn't get the Shaka Smart love. Now,
no love for Shaka Smart here.
Yeah, you're kind of irrational with
Absolutely,
that.
yeah.
Like, it doesn't bother me that he should get one technical a game. Like, that bothers you guys?
I think he should get more technicals than he does. The dude is out there literally on the court defending players. Like, he's defending the opposing team. He's in a stance.
So,
like, that's what bothers me. That guy's a clown.
If you just watch, and I know we watch a ton.
Yeah.
Even random games, because what did I ask you about the other day? Was it FAU? Who were they playing?
Yeah,
Memphis?
No, it was they were playing. It wasn't Memphis, was it?
No, South Florida was playing somebody, and I go, well, apparently you don't want to play South Florida on Sundays because this is the second. Oh, it's SMU. We were talking about SMU.
South Florida, SMU.
Okay, so like if you watch a ton of basketball, like which one of these conferences on a given night do you feel comfortable about? Because it's popular to hate on Michigan State, right? People that want to knock the Big Ten, they'll go to I don't know who Michigan State. Like, who are any of these teams?
I don't know. That's kind of where
who are any of these middle of the pack teams?
That's totally fair because I went to I don't know. I tweeted this out like probably a month ago at this point. I was like,
we weren't working together, so you get a pass.
I go, is UConn the only good team? Is that the only team that you can look at on any given night and be like, yep, I know what they are? And it was before the Creighton game, but I think it was after Purdue lost to Ohio State, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe it wasn't a month ago; it was a couple weeks ago. And I just sit there and I go, I don't know what most of these teams are. Forget the middle of the pack teams. I don't know what most of the people at the top are on any given night. Like Marquette some nights doesn't look good. There are some nights, and they've been a top 5 team most of the year. There are some nights Marquette looks bad.
Who did they just hammer last night? Providence? Was it Providence?
Providence, yeah. They beat the snot out of Providence. But I don't know who Providence is. That doesn't help me at all. I don't know who Seton Hall is. I don't know who – I mean, we talked about I don't know who Auburn is. Auburn's 11th in the country. I don't know who Auburn is.
How about South Carolina?
South Carolina's a great example. Have any idea? Do you have any level of confidence in South Carolina?
But can I go back to this team? And it's not going to be Houston because that's kind of the team.
What about Tennessee? You feel good about Tennessee?
I've been trying to tell you about Tennessee, but I can't get you guys.
No,
I can't get you guys to trust me on Tennessee.
I can't get to trust Rick Barnes. That's where I.
But you didn't say that a couple weeks ago. So
I didn't.
But I do understand that. Like if you got to me about Underwood, and Rick Barnes, like that's fine.
That's where.
But I'm telling you, Tennessee,
they've been really good. Dalton Knecht is one of those dudes.
Did you watch his act last night?
He's so good. What, 25 points last 12 minutes? Is that what it was?
Yeah.
39 for the night.
And
stupid good.
And I'll give you the opportunity again.
Mm-hmm.
Zach Edey, Big Ten Conference or the rest of the country for Player of the Year?
Listen, we did this last time. I think the guy that will win it and the guy that should win it are different people.
I don't know. I gave you the analogy.
You have more confidence in the voters than
I said, what if such and such or such and such just goes on a heater? Like if Tennessee's a 1, you don't think Knecht should be Player of the Year?
I think he should be anyway. He's been, because not just how good he's been, but I also like the story. Going from JUCO to Northern Colorado to Tennessee. I mean, 2 years ago,
there's some stretches. He's unbelievable.
It was just 2 years ago. I believe it was 21-22. This dude scored 9 points a game at Northern Colorado. That's it. This same guy, I believe that number's right. This same guy is out there dominating a very good SEC this year.
Mm-hmm.
And I agree he should be National Player of the Year. He's a better candidate.
I just didn't think that at that time, like Edey should be the only minus money guy.
That's fair. I don't know about the betting odds. I have less faith in the voters because I've seen it too many times where a narrative gets in their head.
Right. Says the guy that was pumping the whole didn't have a road win in the Big Ten Conference. And I said,
because I didn't.
Do you understand? We don't have to speak this into existence.
I'm literally doing the exact same thing here. I didn't trust the committee to not fall for the narrative. It wasn't that I believed the narrative.
I couldn't even get you to say it was about Nebraska's bad losses and not a road win, though.
Because
I could not get you to say that out loud.
Because that's not what I believe the committee would have been looking at. And I'm not talking about what I personally believed about Nebraska's resume. I was talking about what I personally believed about how stupid the committee can be. I believe the same thing about how stupid voters can be.
So tonight, right?
Yes.
Which was where I was going with this. So
Nebraska,
tonight,
Ohio State.
So all of a sudden, this is a pretty tricky game, right? The quad discussion is going to come into play.
Technically, it would be a quad one. I mean, it's a quad one game. It could be a quad 1-1.
Yeah, right.
I don't look at Ohio State and be like, quad 1, but that's what the metrics dictate.
So again, Ohio State, same guys on the floor that we didn't give a ton of respect to a couple of weeks ago before the firing, right? So in our basketball collective minds, when we're analyzing data and we're assessing teams and how good they are, you feel good, or we should feel good, or the committee should feel good looking at Ohio State differently now in this 2-week span to validate another team's progress or merit and lay your head down at night.
No, I don't.
I mean, just say, like, I'm just trying to get people to think like the group think thing and, well, that's the way it's always done. Like the agent of change is people. So if you want people to think intelligently or to change their vantage point, you have to have the discussions for the start.
And that's fair, but we're having two different discussions right now because you're having the discussion of what should be.
No, don't put no.
Okay.
I'm having the discussion of what's possible if you'll take some initiative.
Fair.
Just leave it at that.
Okay.
Don't
fair.
Overcomplicate it.
The conversation I'm having is I don't trust the committee or the voters or whoever.
You keep saying
no
this.
To see past X, Y, or Z.
Why though? Because they're allowed to be comfortable with saying and spewing nonsense. That's what you're saying. Like, well, it's always been like this. Well, that's just how they think. Well, what can I do? Like, what kind?
There's too much history for me to say, hey, I believe they're going to change.
So you're just talking to be talking.
No, I'm talking because I think that's what's happening. Like, I'm talking because I think this is the situation, because I think if you're a Nebraska fan, and things have changed obviously in the last week,
bro. At what point should we have believed that I could drink out of a different water fountain? No. No. Like, I've been that way for a long time. Like, at what point should I just stop trying?
Because we're not talking about a moral issue here with Nebraska's resume.
Oh my Lord.
What? What?
It's not a moral deal. It's a moral example, but the point is your thought process.
Okay.
We're so quick to want to label. Like, just talk generally about specific things to move the needle. We get so enamored with, like, well, it was like this and like, don't let people shift ideology on you to let themselves off the hook.
So you don't want me to look
but because they do, and you think inherently that's what people will do, then we just shouldn't say anything at all.
I'm not saying we shouldn't have that conversation. What I was saying is we can have that conversation and you can be right. That doesn't give me a lot of confidence that the committee or the voters.
I can't help that then, though. Like that's fine. Like we're just different in that regard.
I can't help it necessarily either, but
I'm either irrationally naive, or I'm ultra competitive, or just dumb. It's one of those three things. And then anybody listening probably immediately.
I think it's a combination of the first two, if we're being honest. I think it's a combination of the first two.
So you think I'm being naive?
I think
to not have people look at things in a vacuum.
Yes.
Okay.
That's
discouraging.
Well, I think that you want to believe better of people. So if you want to call that naivety or not, I don't know. That's the word you used. I'm not necessarily comfortable using that word.
That's fine.
But
I don't, because again, you don't have to apologize for that. Just because you say it to me doesn't mean I have to own it.
So no, but I think you think better of people in these situations than I do. And so it goes back to the conversation we had about Frost on Monday. You believed better of him in that situation than I did. You believed he was capable of something in that situation that I did not.
100%.
We're having the same conversation about the committee. We're having the same conversation about Player of the Year voters. You believe they're capable of something that I don't. That's the conversation we're having. That's all. Because I agree. I think Dalton Knecht has been better this year than Zach Edey. I think he's been more for his team. I think he's a better story. Whatever box you want to check for Dalton, I think he's a better Player of the Year candidate.
And I will say this, like Edey's metrics on the floor, off the floor, like his impact is
enormous.
It's not debatable.
This is not Zach Edey slander.
Right.
This is pro Dalton Knecht. That's the difference here.
Right.
Like, this is not Zach Edey slander. I want to make that very clear. And it wasn't, for me at least, it wasn't Nebraska slander to talk about their resume. It was.
Well, you weren't alone. I sat next to a guy for 2 years that was like, I mean, the other light-skinned guy would basically look at me and say, well, you can keep believing that if you want to. What if he's not capable? It would infuriate me internally, because a lot of it is just my own like history. Like, I've gone through stretches of just being a grade A turd.
Sure.
Like,
okay.
But I'm not a turd by nature. So it's like anything's possible if it's important enough to you.
But you have to have the not being a turd in you in order to not be a turd. You assume, and this is where I use the term naive. I go a little over optimistic about people, which is one of the things I like about you, by the way, is you believe that most people have not a turd in them somewhere. And I'm not sure I believe that. I believe a lot of people are just 100
inherently turd,
100% turd all the way through.
Put that crap on me.
No pun intended, Timmy.
It's not like it's turd covering like a candy
I don't
shell.
know if it's so much. I mean, I kind of get
you get what I'm saying?
I get how you landed the plane, right? It's funny because I just had this conversation with the mayor. He's like, we're still talking about Bo, and I was like, I'm not mad at you. Like, if you land the plane there, because Bo did come up, but there were so many things before that led up to the Bo thing. But anyway, like, okay, fine.
That's all I'm saying.
But what I'm telling you is there's really no reason to parent or to get out of bed, go do your job or whatever. Like, let's say it's a relationship. If you concede the fact, because it always will be.
No, and I agree.
Like I just can't function like
and
that.
I think where we're getting a little bit different here is I trust an individual more not to be a turd, but when we get into group situations like a committee or voters or things like that, that's where I don't totally trust people not to be turds. Like that's where I get a little more. That's where I get a little more hesitant. I start to put up the defenses a little bit more because on an individual basis, I feel like I can talk to you and kind of like we just did there. You're like, Ravi, what are you talking about? You know, if it's what it's been is always what it's going to be. Like I'm still drinking out of a different drinking fountain. Like, and then we can land on a spot where you understand what I'm saying, even if you don't agree, right? And on a one-to-one, I believe in that a lot more than a groupthink situation where you got a bunch of people in a room trying to decide.
But you do understand, though, you have to start with the individual.
I understand that, but I can't go person to person and be like, "Hey, have you heard about Dalton Connect? Pretty good." I can't go person to person and be like,
"You're narrowing the scope about this singular individual." Generally speaking, if you want to change people's minds about any particular policy,
okay,
it starts with individual growth. Doesn't matter if it's player of the year. Doesn't matter if it doesn't matter what it is, right? If Trev, God, we just had this conversation too. Not me and you, but like if Trev wanted to change, or had an idea to change NLI infrastructure, in-house versus out-of-house, or going to subcommittees or whatever, like it has to start with an individual thinking, gosh, you know what? There's a different way to do this. And then that said person or a couple of people talk to this said person and a couple of people, and then they talk to, and then all of a sudden you sit down at a table and you're like, hey, this could be a good idea. What do you guys think?
So maybe
so like what's wrong with that philosophy?
So maybe the issue here is I don't give us enough credit or myself enough credit in terms of potential influence. Maybe that's the issue here.
Which is weird because we live in a day and age where people have zero credibility at all, have never done a thing in their life, and all of a sudden can make all this money on TikTok or Instagram as an influencer.
Right?
Really? You don't think the moment is ripe? There are more sheep now than ever. If you want to be a lion,
I think I forget sometimes that people are listening and we're not just having a conversation at a sports bar.
Oh man,
I mean, if I'm being honest,
like sport, it just doesn't have to be that way.
That's fair.
Second guy doesn't always have to get caught. Right? Have I not used that before?
Yeah, you have.
Okay.
All right, coming up next, we will continue on. Maybe we'll get to what we thought we were going to talk about at some point. There's some weird stuff happening with college football playoffs.
I don't understand, but I got it.
We'll see what happens. Coming up next on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We will be back. 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 You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We're halfway through the show here on AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. We are brought to you by our friends over at the Omaha Supernovas. They play tonight in Atlanta. You can go check out supernovas.com to follow along live stats. You can listen along, or they've got a link to watch on YouTube as well. But they come back to Omaha on Thursday, March 14th, just a couple weeks from now, and you can go get tickets at supernovas.com. They'll be playing those very same Atlanta vibe here in Omaha, CHI Health Center at 7 p.m. on March 14th. Make sure you get to supernovas.com, check out their schedule, check out their shop as well. Of course, you can buy your tickets there as well. That's supernovas.com. That is an old school reference.
Yeah,
it is.
Shout out Renee Saunders, who's doing some color commentary.
Yeah,
for Supernovas. Yeah, I'm a big fan. So
yeah, there you go.
I think she's amazing, and I think Scott's won 227 straight state titles.
I think that's correct. Yeah, it might just be 11, but it's close. At a certain point, once you get double digits, like, what's the difference? Like, it doesn't matter.
One of the cool things about her is she pays attention to the rest of the state too, and Metro and stuff like that. And she's like GOAT status.
Yeah.
Kaz did it. He did a good job. Scott's the brainchild in their athletic department. He is. I was gonna lament for a minute, but shout out to Kaz. He lets Verzal walk in that building, so I don't know. I got to question his judgment a little bit.
DB loves a good administrator,
dude. Do you know how critical it is?
Yeah.
No, like, have you?
No, I mean, so I don't know at the high school level, just to be honest. But like, I see it all the time from. I mean, obviously, we've seen it at the University of Nebraska.
Yeah.
We've seen, and I don't even know.
You've seen it at Iowa. You've seen it at Creighton.
Well, so I was going to bring up Creighton, right? So I don't even know necessarily, because this narrative gets out there. There's the word narrative again. But this narrative gets out there that, there's trouble at the top at Creighton, or there's tension between president and AD and coach. And like, maybe there is, maybe there isn't. I don't know. Right. But there was, at the very least, it's a less cohesive relationship than it used to be with Mac and Raz and the previous president of the university, right? So even if it's not all doom and gloom the way people kind of want to paint it out, I made this argument last week, right? Maybe Marcus Blossom's biggest sin is just not being Bruce Rasmussen. And I don't know. There might be other issues. I really don't know. I'm not trying to be coy or anything here, but isn't it possible?
The big pond fish? The ones that look like goldfish, KOI.
Yeah, koi.
Yeah,
okay. I was like, I don't know what that's spelled different. COY, not KOI. It's a little different there. But you know what I mean? Like, and
are you being coy?
No. But you know what I mean? Like, there's even just going from a really good relationship and administration to just not the same people can have, as we've seen, I would not devastating effect, but it has an effect.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's it. That's always an interesting argument. I was watching yesterday on a deal about this kind of the breakdown of Alabama's staff in football and the effects of not being Nick Saban.
Yeah.
Not what it's like being Kalen DeBoer.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm just thinking.
And again, that's not an indictment on Kalen DeBoer. He's just not Nick Saban.
Yeah, we've seen it though, right? With Coach Solich.
Yeah.
Well, it's not Coach
Not
Osborne.
T.O.
Yeah, that's
sometimes the person's biggest sin is they're just not the other guy. And we get so either attached or enamored or comfortable or whatever with the other guy.
I definitely, but
that no matter who comes in, and sometimes bad choices are made and bad hires are made. Like, that's obviously clear.
And I think, was it No Block, No Rock? Somebody tweeted, I think it was NBR guys, that they had heard Buffett use the moat reference. Right? Because I was talking about.
With Trev.
Yeah, and he was so passionate. It was.
That would make sense if it was a Buffett thing. Because that's how he operates. At least that's what that's what's publicly known about how he operates.
Yeah, it's like I've heard him use the moat reference, because if you missed the other day or whatever day it was,
yesterday,
I was just saying, Trev was talking about one of the things that the biggest thing that he's trying to do is to build a moat around his staff and his employees, so they can go to work. Because he said, people would be surprised. They have some really good people that are really good at their jobs. He wants them to be able to do their job.
And with Buffett, that makes sense, right? Because the way he goes about business is he buys businesses that are already doing things right. So why would he want to go? Like, he's not one of those people.
He's not a rehab guy?
Man, I cannot tell you, because I've seen it happen, how many companies go in, buy a successful business because they want what that successful business is doing, and then change how that business operates. I was in one of those that got bought once, and they changed. They were trying to change. It's like,
and I guess it depends on where your strengths are. Because we work for a guy that has killed it.
Sure,
rehabbing.
But there's a difference.
Businesses, right? So it's like,
but there's a difference between taking over a business that needs rehabbed and taking over a successful business and deciding to change it because you think, like that's what doesn't make any sense to me, right? Is when you take over something successful and decide, oh, I want them to be more like me. It's like, well, then why did you buy them? Why did you take them over if you just want them to be more like you?
Okay, but yes and no, right? So would you rather be Frankie London or Scott Frost taking over for T. Fraze, or would you rather be one of the young incumbents now, i.e., young Dylan, taking over for Purdy, Harburg, Sims? Because there's pros and cons to both.
There
right?
is.
We've already resigned ourselves to the fact, and I haven't. I may save this for Mitch tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Like I hear and I get this sense that we would be disappointed if Dylan wasn't our starter.
Oh, that's definitely the sense. Absolutely, it is.
I don't know who this is in me, like the hat.
Mm-hmm.
I don't give that one thought.
It's the coach. That's the coach in you.
I don't give it one. That hasn't even crossed my mind. Do you know what? And this is God's honest truth.
Yeah. How are you processing it?
I want to see spring. I'm like, ooh, man, I hope this is competitive.
Yeah, that's the coach. That's the coach.
I want to see who can ball.
That's the coach in you, 100%. Because I've felt the same way about basketball players. Like it's the coach in you. I can say that with 100% certainty.
You know, I'm sitting out here on my way back from Lincoln the other day, and I'm like, have we resigned we're already setting ourselves up for, if this doesn't happen, then this.
Yes.
You know, there's other ways to look at things, right?
100%. You can look at it where if you say, okay, number one, we've got a few options that we like their talent, or we like the guys.
Nobody's going to ride with me on this. I know I'm going to be Gilligan.
Yeah, but out on an island. But
yeah. But don't you? Because you didn't even hesitate.
Oh,
you're like, 100%,
no,
man.
I swear to you, if Heinrich Harburg takes the first snap on August 31st,
now I think that would be different because we have
a body of work.
Yeah, we have a body of work.
Yeah, but what would it say to you? Because it can say two different things. It can say Dylan Raiola isn't the guy we thought, at least right now, or it can say Heinrich Harburg got so much better that he beat out Dylan Raiola.
Can I go back to something you said yesterday? And you said it.
Yeah, go ahead.
You literally took the baton and ran with it.
Mm-hmm.
What if you trust somebody so much, even if it's not what you believe,
even if you think they're wrong,
that you ride with it?
Yeah.
So are we capable of feeling like that about Coach Rule and his decision making?
We'll see. We'll see who takes the first.
Isn't that like a legit practical example of what we're talking about?
It 100% is. But it also,
because I said that's when the magic happens.
It also goes in.
It defies all logic.
It does. And right now, it defies all logic to think that.
But he's who we trust.
He is. That would be the ultimate test of his trust. I just am putting that out there now. I'm serious. Based on the way people in this state feel about Harburg, feel about Raiola.
So we're just writing off everybody else, right?
100%. That is what has happened. Right or wrong, that is the state of the union. It is.
Well, I lit the fuse. You kind of bristled up in your seat.
Well, it's true.
Nothing
would test our trust in Matt Rule more than him rolling anybody besides Dylan Raiola out there August 31st.
And you were just willing to live with the consequences of rolling out a true freshman.
I mean, we were willing to live with the consequences of rolling out a guy that wanted to be a tight end last year. So
I don't know if you know, man, but I heard we better take advantage of this schedule.
Hey, 7-0 to start. Let's go. DB loves schedules talk. Coming up next, we got Brian Edwards, our Vegas insider here on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio. Now, Vegas insider, senior handicapper, and fan of the cold Budweiser bottles, Brian Edwards.
It's got to be touchdown, touchdown, touchdown.
Brian Edwards.
I don't really love it.
Brian Edwards.
Were they using the cream cheese to butter the bagel?
Brian Edwards.
I'm going with the cowgirl.
Here is Brian Edwards.
Joining us now on the Warhorse Sportsbook Hotline here on Hurrdat Sports Radio is Brian Edwards. B, how are you this morning?
Good morning, fellas. How we doing?
Man, see, I got canceled for 5 months, and all of a sudden, you know how to work StreamYard pretty well, man. Like you're like batting 1,000 the last couple times since I've been back. See what happens when you get rid of old DB?
No, man. My CenturyLink is all over the place. Sometimes good, sometimes bad. Maybe it's just a morning thing, but we'll
How's
take
the fiber optics game down there in your parts of the country? Is it pretty steady?
I
mean, you have a lot of outages. You good? I mean, what?
Yeah, no, I hadn't had a lot of outages. But I remember complaining about the picture on my StreamYard a few times. Like I'm talking like a couple years back, and they were trying to tell me I only get a certain amount of whatever the voltage or the
GPSs or something.
There you go.
Bandwidth.
Hey,
something like that.
What's your lag? What's your lag time? Like if you're watching a game, because you're an in-game guy,
Yes.
And like you'll go to get on something, and it's probably only gonna be there like 6 seconds. Like,
Right.
what's
Yeah.
your lag time?
I feel like I'm like 15 or 20 seconds, but there's a buddy of mine that I go over to his house to watch games a lot, and he has the YouTube TV. I feel like he's like 30 or 45 seconds behind, so I don't have any complaints. You know how when you're watching the game in the live,
Ryan Edwards here for not wanting to stream YouTube TV.
Right. The live line will change, and you're like watching the game. You're like, okay, somebody's about to hit a 3-pointer, or this or that. But when I'm over there, I feel like I'm 2 possessions behind in hoops, and like 2 plays, or a play and a half behind in football.
That's rough. I don't think that might be an internet issue, B. I don't think I get that with my YouTube TV.
So I'm probably about 12 seconds.
Yeah, maybe. I think I'm like 5 to 10.
But there's
it's not
this,
30.
There's this thing now, B, where I got to go into it. Somebody sent me a link on YouTube where they now have a feature where you can basically make it more efficient. You got to go in your settings. But I don't know what that's.
We'll talk about that off the air. I need to know about it. I don't want to spend the whole segment on it, but I need to know about that.
Well, I do got to ask real quick, though. So, like, when you're doing the live in-game thing, it's basically your phone and your computer, right?
Yep.
Okay.
But I kind of I prefer doing it on my computer because I feel like I'm navigating a lot faster.
Gotcha.
B, let's get into some of the plays you like for tonight and through the weekend. Let's start off in the old AAC. You got Memphis at East Carolina. That over-under is at 146. Where are you looking at on that one?
Yeah, so the under's on a crazy run for East Carolina, 17-3 in its last 20, and one of the 3 overs only had 139 combined, which would have gone under tonight's total of 146, and this 146 total is the 6th highest during this 20-game stretch of 17 unders for ECU. All of East Carolina's offensive stats are abysmal, such as their free throw percentage, 312 out of 362 Division I teams. That 312 on the 3-point accuracy, 309 on field goal percentage, 298 in scoring. And defensively, they're 35th at defending the 3-point line. Now, Memphis is more of an over team, but I like this 17-3 to the under on ECU, and this being one of the highest totals in that stretch. So let's go under 146.
It's a tough conference to cap, but I mean, that's why you're the expert. We're going to go over to what's remaining of the Pac-12. Washington State laying 6.5, 7-ish against USC tonight.
Yeah, so Washington State gets the monster win at Arizona last Thursday, which I think, wrapped up, put them on lockdown for an at-large berth. And so they predictably were in a letdown scenario Saturday, lost at Arizona State. But I think that's good for tonight. We get them in bounce-back mode, and they're nasty at home. They've won 5 in a row, both straight up and against the spread at home. And 4 of those wins were by margins of 13, 19, 9, and 22. And the 5th win was over Arizona at home, which was only by 3, but I mean, that's Arizona. And they have won by 7 or more in 11 of their 13 home wins, and by double digits in 9 of them, whereas USC is 2-8 straight up, 4-6 against the spread in 10 road games. Regardless of venue, the Trojans have lost 9 of their last 12, and they've lost by at least 8 in 6 of those. And Washington State already went to LA and beat them by 8. So let's go with Wazoo minus 6.5 or 7 at home to USC.
We're talking with Brian Edwards, our Vegas insider. B, I'm excited tonight because my Golden State Warriors are actually playing on the East Coast, so I don't have to stay up till all hours of the night to actually watch a Warriors game. But they're a 4.5-point favorite against the Knicks. There's a little bit of question about Jalen Brunson, though, and his status. How are you feeling there?
Yeah, so if Brunson is downgraded, then I'll be on the Warriors. They're just playing really good ball. I mean, they were playing really good before the All-Star break. Coming out of the All-Star break, they're 3-1, both straight up and against the spread. The only loss, a close game, or I'm sorry, not a close game. They lost to the Nuggets. But yeah, if Brunson's out, they're already without Anunoby. And just banged up in general here for several weeks now. So if Brunson's out, give me the Warriors.
Jazz are a much different team on the road than at home. It seems to be kind of an NBA thing, but man, catching a decent number tonight against Orlando. Quietly, like I don't know. I almost feel like Orlando should be better, but maybe it's a little premature. But golly, they're 33-26. Hey, what do you like tonight?
Well, I think you think they should be better because you've probably been hearing about how they're one of the best ATS teams in the NBA all year.
Are a covering machine.
Yeah, they are better for our purposes. 38-21 against the spread for the year. So in their last 14, Orlando 10-4, both straight up and against the spread. They're now 19-7 straight up, 18-8 against the spread at home this season. Look, I like them tonight, even if Paolo Banchero, their leading scorer, doesn't play. But he's missed the last 2 games with an illness, and that's what started on Sunday, and then he missed Tuesday's game. So, man, he's really sick if he's not ready by tonight. But I like him even if he doesn't play, but I would think he's got a decent chance of getting back tonight. But Utah, terrible on the road and just terrible in general lately. 5-12 straight up, 6-11 against the spread, and it's been even worse since February 8th. They're 1-6 both straight up and ATS, and for the year 9-21 straight up, 13-17 against the spread in 30 road games. Walker Kessler's questionable for them. Give me Orlando minus 6-ish.
And I'm a big Jalen Suggs guy since high school, so full disclosure, go Magic.
Speaking of teams that are terrible, you got a sicko matchup tonight with the Hawks and the Nets that you've got to play on.
Did you see the picture of your boy Trey Young in the hospital bed over a finger?
Trey,
Brian Evans. Brian Evans.
I was going to say, don't put Trey Young on me.
So I looked at that in the hospital, and I was like, was it his heart? Was it his like he was in the hospital bed, like it looked like for anything other than a finger.
He had the whole hand wrapped up.
Yeah, well, I think it was post-surgery, I think. I mean, he did have surgery. So I'm thinking it was the anesthesia.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, listen,
he's probably like, I think it was his dad's Twitter. He's probably like, Dad, why in the world are you putting that on social media?
Even if it was like kind of localized and just the arm, it seemed a little much. But
yeah,
I listen, that's just me. I don't knock the hustle.
I agree. We got to scold Mr. Young on that one.
So you've got Hawks Nets over under that number. I've got it at 223.5. Looks like you had it at 223.5 or 224. What are you looking at there?
Yeah, so the under's 9-1 for Brooklyn and its last 10. And with Trey Young out, the Hawks, or actually they've had 4 straight unders, but with the 2 with him out, they have only had combined scores of 201 and 221. So let's go under. A low total for the Hawks, but a different team without Trey Young. Not as prolific offensively, but playing a lot better defensively.
So this one's interesting because it's right in our own backyard. You got Ohio State and Nebraska, and it's a big one. The total for you, whether you play it or not, hinges on whether Battle plays.
Yeah, so if Battle gets upgraded, let's go with the over in tonight's game. If he gets downgraded, let's take Nebraska as an underdog. Battle averages 14.2 points, 5.1 rebounds, shoots 44% from 3, 93.9% from the free throw line. And overs have cashed in an 18-7 clip for Nebraska, 6-1 in their last 7 road games. And when Nebraska's had a total of 146.5 or fewer, The over's 10-3, and actually 10-1 in their last 11 with totals that low. But if Battle plays, I think Nebraska wins outright. I mean, if Battle doesn't play, I think Nebraska wins outright.
What'd you make the number?
Well, I had not noticed Battle's injury yet, so I had Ohio State at -2, but I would have had it. If Battle's out, I think Nebraska should be favored.
Gotcha.
That's Brian Edwards, MajorWager.com, BrianEdwardsSports.com, and Vegas Insider. B, we appreciate it all, as always. Talk to you next week.
Thanks, y'all. Have a great weekend.
Thanks, B.
Coming up next, we got Michael Bruntz, Husker 24/7.
We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. Welcome to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Kicking off hour number 3 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're also live on KFOR in Lincoln for this third hour. And we are brought to you by our friends at the Warhorse Sportsbook. If you want to put in some of those plays that our guy B. Edwards just gave you, make sure you get to Warhorse Sportsbook. You can go to the casino in Lincoln or Horseman's Park in Omaha, 6303 Q Street. And starting tomorrow, you can start earning entries.
Why you say it like that?
Tomorrow, because you can start earning entries into the $1 million perfect bracket challenge. $1 million for the perfect bracket challenge with Warhorse Sportsbook. Every $50 sportsbook wager or ticket for $50 or more gets you an entry. You have to be a Warhorse Rewards member for those entries to qualify you into the bracket challenge. That's between tomorrow and March 14th. That's before the tournament starts, to get your entry. So rack up those entries, try and pick a perfect bracket, see if you can win $1 million. Even if you don't get a perfect bracket, you can still win up to $10,000 in prizes for the top brackets. Make sure you go to warhorsecasino.com for a full list of details and rules. See if you can win yourself $1 million with a perfect bracket. Joining us now on that Warhorse Sportsbook hotline, our good friend, although after last week, I don't know if we're still good friends, Michael Bruntz from Husker 24/7. What's going on, man?
Nothing. What's up?
Brunchy, how we doing, buddy? We good?
Not bad. Yeah, I'm good.
Bruntz, we've been arguing about Bo Jackson for a full week.
That's not true.
No, it is. It is.
I am not. My man L2 over here is.
You get dragged into the fray every once in a while, but I'm gonna, like I said, I'll die on that hill, and I just didn't realize I'd be dying all week.
Yeah, no, it's it's like I said last week. It's a very interesting take.
Brunsy, per usual with you, we're gonna hit it all.
We're gonna bounce around a little bit.
It may be a little major league. There's certainly going to be college baseball. There's certainly going to be basketball, and there's going to be some football. But I'm going to start right in your very own backyard with recruiting. So I think a year ago, we were talking and we're like, oh my gosh, they have to do something with December in this signing period. It's too much. Coaches are complaining. They're never around. They can't get ready for a bowl game. It comes up the last handful of days that you could have multiple signing periods. It was kind of, at least the guys that I talked to, was received fairly lukewarm. We know December is messy. You have to fix it a little. Maybe you keep February, but this whole summer thing, it gave me Bo Pelini vibes, and people thought he was nuts. Where'd you land on everybody's pushback or acceptance of some potential changes?
Yeah, I think in order to kind of really dive into it, I think it kind of matters what kind of program you're in, right?
Okay.
I've talked to a few personnel folks in the last 24 hours, just kind of seeing what I was missing, like what angles am I not seeing here? And I think you're right. Like I think the December change and actually having December as a dead period, the people I talked to were like, okay, that makes sense to us because essentially you're just babysitting recruits at that point.
Yep. And
your head coach is flying around the country having meals in homes and things like that. I mean, you're setting the table a little bit for the classes ahead too, but you do that more in January now. But the December thing, they were kind of like, okay, this makes sense to us. Like you don't get a ton done there anyways. Most of your class is already in the fold anyways and not going anywhere. So that's okay. June's going to be fascinating because I think depending on what kind of a program you see yourself as, that's going to decide how you treat that June signing window, or at the end of the summer. Like, I think if you're a program like, let's say South Dakota State, or an FCS program, or a program where you feel like you're really good at evaluating. You can kind of find guys early that other programs might have missed. I think there's definitely an advantage to being able to sign a kid and lock him in June before everybody else kind of figures out what's going on. I'll be interested to kind of see the discussions that happen between recruits and coaching staffs now, because let's say you commit early, but maybe you want to take a visit or two in the fall.
Yeah.
Then the question is are you actually committed if you're not going to sign in June? And it's like, well, that's pretty early. And I still don't know what are we going to do for coaching changes? I mean, right now, if you're on a roster, you get the 30-day window if a head coach leaves or gets fired. You had 30 coaches change jobs this past cycle. I mean, it's really tough, I think, and kind of creates more issues for what you're going to do in November, let's say, if all of a sudden the coach leaves to take another job and you've been signed for the last 5 months. And I know you commit to a school, blah, blah, blah. But that's not really the case in a lot of situations. You're usually committing to a head coach, usually committing to a position coach too that you like. So I think that was kind of the big one that I kept hearing was like, okay, what are you going to do in that situation? Because that seems like it's going to be just an absolute mess for guys that have been if they choose to sign in June. I might be wrong. I don't foresee a lot of the blue chip guys, the mid 4 stars, those types of guys. I just don't see them signing in June. Like I just don't think that's what's going to happen. I've been wrong, but I think the June window, there's a lot of questions about.
Yeah, I can tell you right now, like it just the one that I have intimate knowledge of right now, and Christian Jones, there's no way, right? Like he's not. There's no way he would sign in June. But
why would you? I mean, if you're, you know how college coaching is.
Yeah.
I mean, you're putting a lot of faith in somebody that they're going to stay put, and I think sometimes that's a really tough bet to make as a 18-year-old kid.
Let me ask you this, Bruntz, because I didn't see this coming, the second part of this coming, but I remember when the transfer portal thing and the one-time transfer thing, I got behind the mic and I was like, hey, this is fine, right? It's whatever. Because I thought the unintended consequence was it would build coaching accountability too. It would force coaches to be who they said they were when they were recruiting guys if you didn't want guys to leave. Now, full disclosure, obviously I didn't know about NIL was going to turn out to be what it was because it wasn't even a thing yet.
Right.
When you're looking at this and the signing periods, the NIL, the coaching carousel, the portal. Do you think we could go the other way with coaches where they're like, hey, you know what? I'm going to be a lot more careful about the guys that I recruit and try the preventative measure versus I'm going to have to learn to play the game. This is the way that it's moving.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's definitely I think that's an approach. I mean, I think you're going to see some programs go that way.
You may miss out on some top end guys, but I don't also want to assume that top end guys don't have any character either, right? Like they're not of
well, it's, yeah, I get your point. I mean, and sometimes it's not even a character thing, right? Like, I mean, if you think a guy, just through the evaluation process, if you think a guy is a good football player, but you want to be more convicted in your evaluation of a kid, I mean, you're going to want to take time. I mean, you're going to want to see track numbers to know if, a guy's truly a good athlete or if he's just kind of an okay football player. There's programs, one pretty close by that I think sees a lot of value in senior film. And, you going to, how many programs are you going to see save 5 spots or for senior film guys, even if you have a bulk of your class wrapped up in June? I mean, I think your point is a good one, because I think at some point with everything, going on in college football now, I think sometimes a little bit more patience allows you to maybe minimize mistakes. I think a lot of programs that can, get in the portal and get active that way, you can kind of erase some of those mistakes pretty quickly. But I think like I said, it kind of depends where you're talking from. And there's some programs in college football that are going to have to be more patient and make sure that they're really kind of going through their process and not just taking risks on guys.
We're talking with Michael Bruntz of Husker 24/7. Really good stuff there on some of the dynamics of that signing period and when guys commit. Yeah, Bruntz, it feels to me like these proposals are often focused on making the coach's life easier as opposed to maybe giving the players what's best for them. But isn't the transfers one of the consequences we've seen of that, where if you're just constantly trying to make the coach's life easier and not the player's life better, then guys are going to leave because they were sort of sold a bill of goods? Am I making too much of a stretch there?
No, I think that's maybe the case in some situations. I mean, I think I don't know. I mean, when you kind of factor in everything else, with NIL and stuff like that, I mean, I think there's probably a little bit more power in the hands of the players too, from that way, rather than what the NCAA is legislating or talking about doing. But yeah, I mean, I think I was kind of fascinated to see when the summer deadline was going to be, because I saw some people say, well, do it in August. And it's like, well, there's like a 2-week window in July, which is like the only time off that coaches have right now.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, I think, late June makes sense to me, but yeah, I mean, it's an interesting push and pull with, what's more beneficial to players, what's more beneficial to the coaches. I think a lot of times those aren't necessarily the same things. I think you're right. I mean, I'm also, you think back to some of the changes that have been made, and, the changes don't happen in a vacuum, but it feels like they do sometimes, where it's like, we're going to make this change. We're going to kind of see what happens, what the unintended consequences are here, and then we'll adjust. Like, I don't know what the perfect answer is to a lot of those questions. And even with this, with the earlier window in June, I wonder if that speeds up recruitments even more. Like, you obviously have guys who are getting offers as freshmen and sophomores now, but are programs going to see, okay, we've got to offer, we got to get in the door and start building this relationship even faster than we were before. I don't know if that's maybe an offshoot too there, and I don't know that that's necessarily a good thing.
Let me fast forward. Decent series. I mean, College of Charleston should tell you a little. They get to reset the rotation in a similar fashion. Are you looking for? Are you starting on the mound to see if there's continuation, if this is going to be a thing with 4-game sets, and can we kind of settle in, or is it? And we heard Coach Bolt talk about this. I thought I was premature, or I thought my buddy was premature, Aaron, when he was mad about all the strikeouts. But it is something that Coach Bolt is addressing out loud. Are you looking at approaches to the plate now, even though Coach Bolt was pretty specific about giving stats and hitting with 2 strikes and things of that nature this week? What's your eye gravitating towards?
Yeah, the strikeout thing is concerning, because I mean,
but did the 250, 267 thing catch you? Like, were you like, huh? He's got some guys in his department.
Yeah, no, they're not blind to anything that's going on over there.
Yeah.
And I didn't check his math on this, but
well, he said it so casually. He gave you the impression he was right.
Yeah, well, you don't just pull that out of nowhere. But I think that the strikeouts are a concern. I mean, to me, it's more about productive outs too. I mean, are you moving guys over? Are you putting the ball in play? I mean, you think about too with the way that this roster is constructed. I mean, this is a roster that I think is more, we're going to put the ball in play. We've got some guys that can run a little bit, and we're going to try to force the issue and make you make mistakes. And it's hard to do that when you're striking out as much as they have been. And I think he's right, though. I mean, I think a lot of it is, are you going up there being aggressive and trying to take advantage of pitches early in the count? And I think they did a better job of that against Grand Canyon. And, you know, the other point that he made was like, look, we scored double-digit runs down there, striking out that much. You know, they can kind of live with that at some point. But the problem is when you're scoring 3 runs and striking out 13 times, like that's just not a recipe to beat anybody. But I think, you know, bigger picture, I'm kind of eager to see if, you know, you can get off to a good start again with Christo and Sears. I mean, I think that could be a pretty good look on a weekend if you can get those guys pitching with consistency. I think Sears will. We'll see if Christo can get there. But, you know, this is the last four gamer for a while, I think. So you'll at least be able to kind of settle in and kind of figure out who you're going to drop from that rotation. But you go back to last weekend, I mean, you have to feel pretty pleased with that bullpen, given they didn't have 2 of their top arms all weekend.
100%.
And still were able to play matchup in the 9th inning of the 4th game of a 4-game series.
You know, and it's funny too, because it's one of those things where I'm glad we get a chance to watch, because if you just look at the stats, you probably think, oh, Sunday got a little messy. What they erased, whatever the lead was, 6 or 7 runs. But once that went away and you got to the actual like bully session or the bullpen, it was actually pretty good.
Yeah, no, I mean, Worthley came in and gave them 3 really good innings, which they desperately needed.
You talk about a cut stopper.
Even Thursday night, I mean, they go from Christo straight to Tyner Horan, and he throws 3 innings of relief, and you don't have to get into your bullpen more than that. That probably set him up better than anything on the weekend. Was just the opening night kind of being able to coast a little bit. So, you have to remember, I mean, this is a bullpen last year where it was like, okay, you got to go get Sherman and hope he gives you 2 or 3 innings.
Yeah.
And, you know, in the 4th game against Grand Canyon, you go to Grant Clevenger, who's throwing 93 from the left-hand side with a good slider. Like, you didn't have that luxury last season. And I think those types of programs that have bullpen depth, I mean, those are the teams that you're going to see later in the season have a lot of success. So we'll see if they can keep that up. But I mean, I think you really saw the depth of their pitching this past weekend. It always shows up in 4-game series, whether you have it or not. But I think they were pretty encouraged by everything, especially considering they didn't have Dice or Fralick available.
We're talking with Michael Bruntz, Husker 24/7. Bruntzy, let's switch gears here to Husker men's basketball.
Why not stretch you, Bruntz?
Well, I mean, listen.
I mean, why not?
You got to get your yoga game right. Get a nice, you know. You lived in California for a while.
Oh, Flexi Lexi over there.
You lived in California for a while. I'm sure you did some yoga. Bruntz.
Wow.
I don't even recognize what we're doing.
Bruntz, obviously, Nebraska goes on the road.
No stereotypes here, Bruntz.
To Ohio.
Yeah, Oakland is known for yoga.
How in the
I mean, could you just see Too Short and the Downward Facing Dog? I mean, come on, MC Hammer, why not?
I mean, listen, the soundtrack might be a little different, but
what is wrong with you?
Happy Black History Month.
Oh, boy.
I think we lost DB. So they go and play Ohio State tonight. Bruntzy, how are you feeling? It doesn't feel like a quad 1 opportunity, but it is. It's a quad 1 opportunity to get a win, another win on the road. Nebraska obviously on a 4-game winning streak. Not really sure what to make of Ohio State, though, at this point with their little run. They've played a little better, I guess, under Diebler since Chris Holtmann got fired. How are you anticipating this game to go tonight?
Yeah, it's scarier than what you would have thought a couple weeks ago. I mean, you see them bounce their head coach, and you're like, okay, you can kind of coast to the end here. I mean, and then you got Michigan that, you know, is struggling also in their coaching situation. But I mean, Ohio State's a talented team. They've been a talented team, and it seems like they've been able to kind of get a little spark from the dismissal. So, you know, Nebraska's going to have to rebound. They're going to have to play tough defense. I mean, that's the 2 things I immediately go to. But yeah, just with the records involved, it doesn't seem like it's a house money game, but it feels like a house money game a little bit to me, just because it's a road game. It's a great opportunity for a quad 1, but at least in the eyes of the people that matter, I don't know that it, you would look at this and say, this is the one we absolutely have to get. You know what I mean? Like if you finish 2-1 over the last 3, you'd feel okay, if you drop this one. But at the same time, I mean, it really would be a really nice capper on a good run here in February if they can get it done. So, to me, it's just, can you play tough defense? Can you rebound? And I think they'll be okay. I mean, I think they've got enough offense where they can take care of Ohio State. But definitely a game where it feels to me like it's more about Nebraska and how they come into this one than what Ohio State's doing.
Let's get in the tree of trust. Who do you trust more, Wisconsin or Iowa?
I would probably say Wisconsin barely. I don't know. Like both. That's a good question. I'm glad we're in the tree here. It's just the 3 of us.
Yep, 4. We got Shane. Shane's here.
Oh yeah, sorry. Shane.
He's not. Don't worry, he's not listening.
I really got to be careful on what I say about that. So
didn't see you there. Yeah, I think I would probably lean Wisconsin ever so slightly than Iowa. Iowa just feels a little bit more volatile in kind of the ups and downs than maybe Wisconsin, but not by much.
Who do you trust more, Nebraska or Northwestern?
I would say Nebraska. I think when Nebraska's playing well, I think they're a better team than Northwestern.
Who do you trust more? Who do you trust more, Maryland or Michigan State?
Well, you got to go Izzo, right? That's the.
Do you?
The
guy's just continuing to stack double-digit loss seasons. I guess.
No, that's my point. Like they're just getting waxed. It's like, oh, they'll get it turned around. It's almost March.
It's Izzo.
They got that final kick. That was a joke. I would probably lean. I'd probably lean Maryland. Here's why I would go Maryland with a little bit more trust here. I think the way that they play is enough of a change up from what teams see night to night that I think that gives them a little bit of an advantage. So I would say I'm going against everything that I'm supposed to do as somebody that watches college basketball, and I'm gonna not say Izzo this time of year.
Is Nebraska the recipient of a double bye?
Yes.
Ooh, yeah. Emphatically.
Okay.
They are. I just kind of looking around at other schedules and what's out there for the last 3. I think Nebraska's got I think they've got the final kick to get that double bye.
It's kind of taking the old look-see, huh, bro? Just kind of
like counting crows,
surveying what's going on around here.
That's
late at night, flipping through the phone, seeing what Illinois got coming down the stretch.
Hey, Illinois, you
Fantastic,
up?
man.
That's Michael Bruntz, Husker 24/7. Bruntsy, we appreciate it as always.
Thanks, guys.
Just kind of taking a look around.
Coming up next,
seeing what's out there.
We'll get into something. Lord knows what it'll be.
Trouble,
here on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We will be back. 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 You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We're back here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, KFOR in Lincoln. That's DB. I'm Ravi, Lulla. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube as well. And we're live from the Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill, where you need to get ready for a game-changing experience at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill, Omaha's premier sports bar, now hiring at La Vista and Gretna locations. That is both locations. If you haven't heard, it's more than just a sports bar. It's elevated pub fare, handcrafted pizzas, diverse craft spirits and classic cocktails, live events and shows. There's something for everybody at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill. Currently, they're hiring at both locations for all positions. So join the team today and be a part of the excitement. You can visit in person at the Gretna location all week. So that's today and tomorrow, the rest of the week, between 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. at the Gretna location for on-the-spot interviews and hiring. Or you can visit hurrdatsportsbar.com/careers to apply. Make every game day unforgettable at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill, where sports, food, fun, and live entertainment come together. So I want to do a little.
I'm still laughing at Shane lamenting over the tater tots yesterday.
Ooh, I do like a tater tot.
Me too.
Those are fire.
I'm just telling you, I'm happy to see that the upcharge on the breaded wings is still an option.
That's fire too.
You love the breaded wings.
They're unbelievable.
Love a good breaded wing.
It's probably, if it's not smoked,
You want it breaded?
I prefer breaded.
Okay, so we're kind of in the spot that we were supposed to do Hurrdat hot seat. And I know there's something else you want to talk to, but real quick,
would you do breaded wings and tater tots together? Because that sounds really good.
If I was going to eat on point the rest of the week, I probably wouldn't eat those in the same day.
No. Okay.
Yeah, spread it out a little bit.
Spread it out.
100%.
Gotcha.
If you are looking for a go-to breakfast sandwich, I want substance, not location. So not where you're going, but you're putting together a little breakfast sandwich, a little breakfast sandy.
Yep.
What's going on that bad boy?
So whatever it's on can't be too chewy. So
that's what we were talking about. You like a muffin over like a biscuit
or a soft witch over
like a bagel.
Yeah.
Like a full-on bagel is a little much.
Although there is a bagel place here that has an incredible breakfast sandwich.
Mm-hmm.
So it has to be something I can fully bite.
Okay.
Multiple meats.
So
I'm a bacon sausage guy.
Okay.
I'm a pastrami bacon or corned beef bacon.
Ooh, I like pastrami and corned beef.
Something like that. So I want more than one meat.
Are you at all? Can I tempt you with a breakfast salmon at all?
Yeah, So yes.
Okay.
Yes.
A little bit.
That's probably 1A.
Cooked or raw?
I prefer cold smoked, but
Okay.
I probably wouldn't eat warm salmon for breakfast.
Fair. Yeah.
I would go cold
Kind of
smoked
like the lox situation.
with the salmon cream cheese,
Ooh,
a
okay.
slice of cheddar cheese on an Asiago soft witch.
Okay.
I know it sounds a little cheesy and a little salmony. I would knock that off every day that ends in Y. One thinly sliced tomato. Ooh wee. But so usually multiple meat.
Okay.
Something soft.
But if it's salmon, you'll make an exception on the multiple meat.
Yeah, it's strong enough as a protein where
you don't need multiples.
I'm cool. Like if I was really gonna be a glutton, I'd like a nice crunch on it, like a hash brown.
Ooh. What about? Could you throw a wild card idea here? Could you throw a little like a slice of bacon on the salmon, or is that overpower the salmon too much? You gotta be careful with bacon sometimes.
I know.
Very strongly flavored.
I've never had bacon and salmon
I'm just thinking
together.
I'm thinking crunchier.
And I put bacon on everything.
Yeah, I'm thinking a little crunchier, a little extra protein.
Yeah.
Just,
I mean, I wouldn't. I'm not gonna thumb my nose up at it. I just
give it a go. Maybe
I don't mess with perfection.
That's fair.
This particular location has a really
got it down pat.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I don't mess with there's that's it may be 1.
Yeah, not even 1A. There's
it's because there are just days I want traditional breakfast meat, cheese, sausage, something.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
I got to figure my breakfast situation out. That's why I'm asking.
I got a couple of spots for you.
So we've been working.
I've got the sleepiest breakfast place, I think.
Are
in
they
this city
open early enough for me to go before the show?
They do breakfast, and people don't give them enough burn. And they're big. They're not the little ones that you can put in your palm.
Yeah.
It is a fantastic sandwich.
You need like a big breakfast sandy.
Yes.
Because I've been rocking the Uncrustables for a little while. I'm kind of burned out.
It's weirded me out.
I'm burned out on it a little bit. I kind of go through these phases where I'll eat up, like hyper fixate on a food.
And it smells like peanut butter.
Well, that's because there's peanut butter in there.
I have a super strong, my olfactory is like the only good sense I have.
It's
I can't see worth a darn. I do hear well.
Yeah.
I like little noises. And who knows about my sense of touch? It's not like, ooh, that was my touch.
Yeah.
But
I don't know how you compare that.
I can freaking smell my brains out. But yeah, so the only thing I want to get to in the cleanup is like what Bruntz was talking about with. I just think about this with guys that were being recruited, and
we're talking about the recruiting calendar with a potential June.
But for a couple of years, I have said December is a mess.
It is.
I've seen the toll that it takes on coaches. I've seen kind of the lack of attention that they can give down the stretch because they are spread thin.
Well, and the other thing is the December signing period lends itself to chaos with the coaching carousel.
Yes.
Like just total and utter mayhem.
It's too much going on.
Because it used to be, hey, you fire and it's caused guys to get fired earlier.
So they can start the calendar.
Right.
Yeah.
Because before you could fire a guy after your season and he still had 2 months to figure out his recruiting class. Now he's got like a week if you wait till the end of the season. Maybe 2.
Yeah, now I know you have some strong thoughts on what a December signing period would be, or June.
Yeah.
But I will say this quickly
I've
because
got
I want to
concerns, that's
because
all.
I'm curious to get your thoughts on it.
Yeah.
Because I think as the playoffs expand,
Mhm.
December, January becomes much more important.
Yeah.
And there's more people in the party, right?
Mhm.
So if you're going from 12 to 14 or
To
whatever,
16 or
to
whatever that number ends up being.
like that means that's a lot of coaches and their staffs that are kind of divided in the month of December and a lot of January
Mhm.
that doesn't allow you to really be recruiting.
Yeah, to be locked in on recruiting.
So do you still need February? Is February too traditional to not mess with?
I think you're okay with February
Okay.
because if you're talking about even 16 teams, you're talking about.
So how long is the dead period in December though? Let's say you sign December 4th or 5th or whatever, the first Wednesday in December. The dead period goes how long? Then you're at Christmas.
What if we got rid of December, the signing period?
I don't think you can.
I
think
even if you move 1 to June.
See, I actually think December is the non-negotiable.
Really?
I'm here. I'm here for
Because it
pushback.
sounded like you were just saying that December's too chaotic.
So here's the thing:
Yeah.
move it up early, then give it a dead period, so coaches can coach.
Right. So my thought is, get rid of it entirely, move it to June. That way, December is just football. Right? If we're doing a big time big boy playoff, and we're dealing with coaching changes,
Are you comfortable with only having February if coaches are
I'm
bowl
talking
gaming?
about-
Hang on though.
Okay, sorry.
If coaches are bowl gaming
Mhm.
and conference championshiping, as long as that's still a thing,
Mhm. Well, who knows?
and playoffing
Mhm.
from the middle of December through the middle of January.
It's better than currently with the December one. It's less,
even with the dead period.
Yeah, I think maybe.
So why not a dead period and let you still keep February?
Well, that's what I mean. You keep February.
So that's what I'm saying though. The December is the non-negotiable because it gets the bulk of your class out of the way.
Right, but we used to not have December and it was fine.
Not really. That's why you have December.
Okay, but hear me out. What if you go June, you leave the season alone, and then February?
Okay. So talk to me about, and I'm listening because I don't know.
Yeah.
What's the advantage for signing in June?
So if you've got both June and December, that's where I get worried, right? Because I think you would see the same
So
thing.
this is a June assumption without December.
This is I think the best, if you're going to go June, I think you have to take out December. I don't think June, December, and February makes any sense whatsoever. I don't think
I'm inclined to agree.
I don't think June, December makes that much sense. I think if you want the best product for college football and the best thing for the athletes, because if you've got June, December, February, what I think is going to happen is the same thing we had with February to December. Teams are going to wrap up their classes in December. February is going to get forgot about, and guys are going to be forced to make decisions maybe before they're ready.
So, okay, so do you think that the schools that like senior evals,
mm-hmm.
they're not changing anyway? So you're pulling them out of it.
That's why February, you leave February
That's
alone.
what I'm just processing real
because
time.
if a guy is going to commit early, the difference between June and December, I actually don't think is that big. The difference between June and February, because then you're allowing senior tape, right? If a guy's signing in December, you already know you want that guy before his senior film, for the most part. If a guy's signing in February, that gives senior film a chance. But if a guy's signing in June, he's the same guy that's probably going to sign in December.
Oh, I don't know.
For the most part.
If June signing period, I mean, is Raiola here?
Well, he might end up different places, but it's not like the eval on Raiola change. That's what I meant.
Okay. No, that's fair.
The eval doesn't change. Destination might have to get a little more loosey-goosey on that transfer portal. Coming up next, we'll talk Ohio State.
We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. Radio.
Purdue to inbound with 1 second to play. Mason Gillis chucks it all.
Radio.
Purdue to inbound.
We will be back. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We're wrapping up the show here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, KFOR in Lincoln. We are brought to you by our friends at the Team Jack Foundation. They had their 11th annual gala over the weekend on Saturday. Bryant Young was here. They had a silent auction. Our friends at the NBNR podcast were representing Hurrdat Sports down there as well. And Team Jack has been obviously closely associated with Nebraska, but they're doing terrific things nationwide in terms of childhood cancer research, fighting childhood brain cancer. They're not just working with Nebraska Medical Center, although they are. They're also working with national institutes such as Dana-Farber Cancer Institute, Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center, Columbia University, and more. They've raised over $12 million and counting to date, and their goal is laser focused, finding better treatments for kids fighting brain cancer and one day a cure. That's the Team Jack Foundation. If you want to get involved, check out their future events. If you missed the gala, donate directly on the website. It's teamjackfoundation.org to get involved. Kind of returning to that conversation we were having about signing day as we
I'm going to do a poll question.
As we effort Stephen Means, who covers Ohio State football and basketball for Cleveland.com. So the four options as we see them are status quo, December and February signing day. Add June and have 3, June, December, February. Add June and get rid of December, so June and February. Or add June, get rid of February. So you got June and December.
Mm-hmm.
I think what you'd have to do, and we can do this on the show tomorrow. What you'd have to do is make a list of the things you want to accomplish by having your signing days, what opportunities you want to afford the players, what headaches you're trying to eliminate with coaches, and what chaos you're trying to get rid of with college football in general.
Yeah.
And that's how
especially
you can,
as the playoffs continue to expand.
Yes, and that's how you can come to what makes the most sense for the multiple signing days. But joining us now on the Warhorse Sportsbook hotline, covering Ohio State football and basketball for Cleveland.com, is Stephen Means. Stephen, how are you this morning?
I'm good. How you guys?
Good, my man. Hey, I guess out of the gates, what's your gut tell you about whether the Buckeyes get a version of battle tonight or not?
That's a hard one. I do think they've at least been competing since Jake Diebler took over, and that's not, I don't think, a slight against Chris Holtman. I think that had already started before they had fired Chris Holtman for a team who's just trying to close out this year, maybe with a little bit more fight than we had seen all season. So I do think it might be competitive. I think one team, Nebraska seems to be surging a little bit here late in the year as they're trying to find positioning for the Big Ten tournament. While with Ohio State, I think they're just trying to, find as much positivity as possible. But I think Nebraska might end up winning.
Okay, so how much of that actually has to do with the word I used and whether a guy like Battle plays tonight for Ohio State? It always helps when he's in the lineup.
I think it all matters, right? He's an interesting piece for them. I don't know if he's their second leading scorer, obviously, when you look at the stat sheet. Usage-wise, I think Roddy Gale is probably their second best overall player this year behind Bruce Thornton. But it is going to matter, right? Because those three guys, all those guys, basically 14 plus points per game. That is going to matter.
Stephen, let's rewind a little bit here to Chris Holtman. What went wrong with the Chris Holtman era? He made NCAA tournaments 4 of his first 5 years. The year that he didn't make it was COVID. They still had 20 wins. What happened the last couple years where the wheels fell off what was going on with Chris Holtman at Ohio State?
Yeah, I think the initial issue before obviously what's happened the last 2 years was, yes, he was making the tournament, but they weren't really doing anything. It's almost like you're in a pool and you're in too deep and you're just kind of staying afloat with your head up in the water. You're doing just enough to be considered a team that can be competitive against most teams, but not a good team that's good enough to actually win any of those basketball games, which is how you constantly get a team who's losing in the first and the second round of the NCAA tournament, how you get a team who every January seems to fall apart or is a middle-of-the-road Big Ten team. And that's not necessarily the standard of Ohio State. It's not the football standard where it's win a national championship every year or it's failure. But you need to at least be competitive and be in the space. And maybe every 2 or 3 years you're in a position where you make a Final Four run. And that wasn't happening. And it set up a world where now when you do have some down years, well, I mean, your high wasn't that high and your lows are crazy low. We can't keep you here. And these last 2 years were supposed to be a reset when you've got back-to-back top 10 recruiting classes. And I think individually those players, as I mentioned, Bruce Thornton, Roddy Gale, Bryce Sensabaugh, Malachi Branham, they individually, some of his players have played very, very well, E.J. Liddell. But as a team, this is a team success game. This is a business of wins or losses, and you weren't winning enough to put yourself in a position where if you had some years like this, you were going to be safe to keep your job.
Yeah, that's interesting, Stephen, because I guess to have the discussion, you have to set the parameters. How good a job is it in terms of the perception? Ravi and I argued about this for a couple of days on, and this is before we even knew that McDermott may be an option. I mean, we're just talking about out loud about how, oh my gosh, Michigan and Ohio State are at the bottom of the Big Ten at the time. What's the perception compared to football, though? How good of a job is it?
I think it's a great job, honestly. I honestly think it's a really great job because it's not Kentucky, UCLA, North Carolina, Duke, Kansas. It's not a blue blood place where you do have those expectations of why haven't we won a national championship yet? Hey, we're going to fire you because you've lost 3 games in a row. Columbus is a great area. You get a lot of the same benefits that the football team does in terms of the NIL space and the fan interest gets there. It's not necessarily there during the football season, but right after December hits, when you get into January, this the stands are typically packed. They haven't been for the last 2 years for obvious reasons. But when this team is good, go ask Thad Matta how good of a job this is. Well, also, you're not first. You're not first on the campus, right? All that energy, whether all that hyperbolic energy, goes towards Ryan Day. He takes all those hits for you. And so your job is to draw attention to yourself in a good way. And when you draw attention to yourself in a good way, you're Thad Matta. When you draw attention to yourself in a bad way, you're the end of the Jim O'Brien era. You're the Chris Holtman era.
Steven, so basically it's the advantages of a big-time job in terms of resources, money, facilities, all of that, but you have a giant heat shield in Ryan Day keeping you from burning up on re-entry. Is that basically what you're saying?
Most definitely.
Let me ask you something. Thornton had his way in Lincoln, at least early. We reference his scoring prowess. We know that. How does Ohio State have to play at home tonight to continue what momentum they're trying to build?
Just consistency for 40 minutes. I do think in all of these games this year, you've seen the spurts. I don't think they've been in many games this year where they didn't look like they belonged on the court. It's just, the results are the results at the end of the day. But I think Bruce Thornton I think he's one of the best players in the Big Ten already. It's just he happens to play for one of the worst teams in the Big Ten, so maybe he doesn't get the notoriety that he should be getting. I think the more interesting piece, though, is Devin Royal, who over the last couple of games here has seemed to come along. He reminds me a lot of what E.J. Liddell was as a true freshman, where it's a small role because he's behind some guys who are veterans. They're bringing him along slow, but then by year 2, it's like, this might be one of the best players in the Big Ten. And in year 3, hey, he might be the best player in the Big Ten if you don't have a 7'4" guy up at Purdue averaging 20 and 10 every single night. So I think Bruce Thornton, yes, but I think he's become a known commodity. Roddy Gale, yes, but he's become a known commodity. Jamison Battle, yes, but he's become a known commodity. And we don't know what this roster is going to look like next year because those are also 3 guys who aren't – one guy's who's graduating and the other 2 aren't from here and their coach just got fired. But I think Devin Royal can be a foundational piece for whoever ends up being the head coach long-term here.
Steven, going to switch gears with you here and go to football with just a couple minutes left. Kind of going to ask 2 questions in one here. First, Ryan Day, I think maybe from a national perspective has a little bit more heat on him than you would expect considering his record, but losing to Michigan, not getting that college football playoff success the way Ohio State's used to. What's the temperature of Ryan Day in Columbus right now? And in conjunction with that, how does Chip Kelly as his new offensive coordinator play into whether or not that seat cools down at all?
It's such a hard thing to gauge because he's 56-8, man.
Yep.
And he's lost 3 Big Ten games. They just happen to be to the wrong Big Ten team.
Yep.
And then Ohio State's gotten on the playoff stage multiple times, and every time they've been competitive. They played Clemson in 19 in a game where if Chris Olave doesn't break off the route, they're going to the national championship game. They reached the national championship game the next year. If their entire roster isn't basically sitting in an infirmary by the end of the Georgia game, they probably win that game, right? So it's a hard thing to gauge. I don't see a world where if Ohio State loses to Michigan a 4th straight time, he sees his job. He keeps his job. And that's coming from someone who's covered this team for more than 5 years now. But also I'm from Columbus, so I understand. I don't know.
You get
fans and boosters are not going to put up with that, right?
Yeah.
They're not going through the John Cooper era again. Now, granted, Michigan's not very good anymore because everything that made them good just left, literally everything.
Yeah.
Players, coaches, staff, everybody.
Yep.
So it's weird. But I think if he loses that game again, I think next offseason is going to get interesting. But at the same time, I don't feel the pressure. Right? It's pressure, but you don't necessarily feel it because whether it's Gene Smith, whether it's Ross B. York, the new athletic director, who will be up there starting in March, but he'll take over full time in July, they're all saying the right things about Ryan Day right now. But it almost comes down to let's see what happens in November in Columbus at the end of next week. Because they're going to make the playoff, right? We have a 12-team playoff world now. But let's see what happens in that game. Let's see what happens. But then at the same time, what if they lose that game and still win a national championship? So he's just hit the crossroads where it's unacceptable to lose that game 4 times in a row, especially now that Michigan's probably not one of the 5 best programs in college football. But also, how much weight should we give that game in a world where you can lose it, but then still go do everything you want to do in a season?
Stephen Means from Cleveland.com. Really good stuff, Stephen. We appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Anytime, guys.
That's the show for today.
See you. Have a good day. Love you.